Chapter 7306. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her eyes and looked in the direction indicated by Lei Jun. The other party was also looking at them. After noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, he could not help but lower his head and did not dare to look at them again. When you were here they didn't care at all? Di Beichen asked. This guy's strength is actually more outstanding than ours, but he didn't make too much of a fuss. He just tried to get some information from our mouths. Zhou Su said. Di Beichen nodded slightly. This situation was within their expectations. His seat was not secure and he had not been around for a long time. It was inevitable that some people would want to take over. Now that they had returned, all of this was naturally not a difficult matter. Originally, he was only worried that this matter had already caused a ruckus before they had returned. While they were conversing, Zhang Sun actually walked over directly. Lei Jun and Lei Jun couldn't help but be slightly surprised when they saw this. They never expected that Zhang Sun would be even bolder than they'd imagined. Isn't he courting death by daring to look for trouble at a time like this? Manager Ji, Manager Gu, you've returned? As Zhang Sun approached, a flattering smile appeared on his face, and there was a hint of nervousness in his expression. When the two of you weren't here earlier, I've always been very concerned about your whereabouts. I was worried that Du Bing and the other two would take the opportunity to harm the two of you. Now that I've seen the two of you return safely, I can be at ease. Zhang Sun's words were flawless, perfectly complementing what he had done previously. However, everyone present was a discerning person, who wouldn't understand his true thoughts. Therefore, when Zhang Sun finished speaking, Di Beichen and the other three didn't say anything and just looked at him quietly. Gradually, cold sweat seeped out of Zhang Sun's forehead. Unable to withstand such pressure, his expression revealed a trace of panic. Plop. Under everyone's astonished gazes, Zhang Sun directly knelt down. Steward Ji, it's all my fault. Please be magnanimous. I won't dare to do it again. Zhou Su swallowed a mouthful of saliva and couldn't help but look at Di Beichen's expressionless face. This was the gap between them. When facing them earlier, Zhang Sun did not have the slightest hint of fear, and his tone was also very arrogant. Now that Ji Chuan was back, Zhang Sun was already scared to this extent before he could say anything. It was really embarrassing. Steward Ji, I swear that in the future, I will obey your every command and will never dare to offend you. Please spare my life. Zhang Sun regretted his actions. If he hadn't been so sure that Ji Chuan and Ji Yunshu wouldn't have come back, he wouldn't have dared to do such a thing. After all, who was Yuan Gang? It was simply not something he could compare to. Even Yuan Gang had died at Ji Chuan's hands. If Ji Chuan wanted to deal with him, wouldn't it be easy? However, right after Du Bing left, Ji Chuan went missing. Not only him but almost everyone believed that something had happened to them. He had only taken the initiative to stand out. Now this was what he regretted the most. The surrounding stewards naturally knew about the commotion caused by Zhang Sun. When they saw this scene they all rushed over and looked at the scene curiously. Zhang Sun was quite proud of himself a few days ago, but now he's done for. Isn't that so? Ji Chuan and Ji Yunshu only left for half a month, and he jumped out in such a hurry. Isn't he in trouble now? However, his attitude of admitting his mistake is quite sincere. Chapter 7307. Everyone's eyes fell on Di Beichen. They also wanted to know how Ji Chuan would deal with this matter. Earlier, when dealing with Yuan Gang, Ji Chuan had acted swiftly and decisively. Do you think Ji Chuan will kill him? I don't think so. Although Zhang Sun went a little overboard, he didn't do anything too outrageous. In the past, when Yuan Gang was here, he didn't kill people for no reason. Although many people had died in Yuan Gang's hands, he would always come up with a solution. For example, if they couldn't pass the assessment, at least they had a choice. Even if they couldn't stay any longer, they could at least choose to leave. It was much better than throwing their lives away. Di Beichen looked at Zhang Sun's trembling appearance and said slowly, "Get up." Zhang Sun was a little surprised, but he did not dare to raise his head, afraid that he had heard wrongly. Since Steward Zhang is so worried about our safety, shouldn't we thank you for your concern? Di Beichen's lips curled up slightly, his tone light. Why aren't you getting up? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Yes. Zhang Sun did not dare to continue kneeling. He quickly stood up and looked at Di Beichen cautiously. His life was now in the hands of the other party. I don't want something like this to happen again. Di Beichen looked at Zhang Sun. His voice was calm, but it was filled with warning. Zhang Sun nodded repeatedly. Of course. Steward Ji, don't worry. Nothing like this will ever happen again. I promise. Looking at the man's frightened appearance, Di Beichen waved his hand. Go back. Zhang Sun couldn't help but look at Di Baichen in surprise. He had thought that after this matter, even if he didn't die, he would at least lose a layer of skin. He hadn't expected that Ji Chuan would let him off so easily. However, he also deeply understood that Ji Chuan and Mo Wuji were definitely not to be trifled with. Just the pressure from before had caused him to feel apprehensive. Such strength was completely not something he could contend against. Zhang Sun left as if he had been granted amnesty, not daring to stay for even half a second. After returning to the tent, Zhou Su sighed and said, "You guys are really amazing. You don't have to do anything, just stand there and the matter has already been resolved." Subduing the enemy without fighting. This is probably the case. Lei Jun sighed with emotion. This is your account book. Every day's situation has been recorded. Zhou Su handed over the account book. You don't have to worry about the amount of spirit-devouring stones handed in every month. Although the mining rate is not high, there is still some. Moreover, the mining rate in mine number 13 is already enough. Why don't you tell me where you've been these days? Di Baichen raised his eyes and glanced at Zhou Su. You're getting more and more involved now. Zhou Su could not help but shiver. He did not know why, but he felt that after Ji Chuan returned, his gaze seemed to be sharper than before, making him somewhat flustered. Forget it. I won't ask you. Anyway, nothing happened during this time. Everything here is in order. Thank you for your help during this time. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. Let's go to Guichen Tower later. How about it? Zhou Su, who originally had a little complaint, suddenly brightened after hearing this. He quickly nodded and said, I know you're the most loyal. When are we leaving? Chapter 7308. If he hadn't followed Baichen to the Mystic Realm, he would probably still be in the Radiant Sun Realm. He had thought more than once that if Bai Qingli had gone with them, she would have been an elementary immortal expert by now. Yang Lingfeng turned to look at Yang Han. He hadn't discussed this matter with him yet. Father. Before Yang Lingfeng could say anything, Yang Han smiled and said, I understand. Once you reach the elementary immortal stage, you must go to the immortal region to explore. You've been staying in the family all this time, waiting for Baichen and the others to come back. Since they're going, you should go. Yang Lingfeng nodded. Various emotions flashed through his eyes, but he didn't say anything in the end. Although he had been to many places in the past few years, going to the immortal region had a special meaning. Once he went, he didn't know when he would be able to return. He wasn't even sure if he could return. However, as a cultivator, pursuing the martial Tao was everyone's idea. He couldn't stop. Seeing this, Bai Qingli's eyes revealed a trace of regret. It's a pity that I haven't broken through yet. He had already sensed the barrier to breaking through, but it would take some time to completely break through. This time he obviously wouldn't be able to make it in time. Moreover, even if he did make it in time, he couldn't leave Yang Qinxue here. There's no rush. Yang Lingfeng grinned, revealing his white teeth, exuding a roguish charm. When you and my sister break through, perhaps I'll have already found a place to settle down in the celestial realm. At that time it would be more appropriate for you two to come over. Bai Qingli put a hand on Yang Lingfeng's shoulder. Alright, I believe that after you go to the immortal domain, everything will be smooth sailing. Perhaps the next time we meet, your cultivation will already be something I can only look up to. I'll do my best. When Yang Han saw this scene, he revealed a gratified look on his face. Young Master Di Lingfeng has a straightforward personality. Most of the time, he doesn't have any scruples when speaking. I'm afraid there's something wrong with him. Please take care of him, Yang Lingfeng said helplessly when he saw that his father didn't mention anything else but his shortcomings. Father. Ling Feng is quite powerful and will be of great help to us. Di Baichen smiled faintly. Yang Lingfeng gave Di Baichen a look. Sure enough, they were brothers. Look at how nice those words were. How could Yang Han not know what his son was thinking? He glared at him and said, with you guys here, I can rest assured. Actually, I also have some understanding of the immortal realms. If you guys don't know enough, I can tell you guys what I know, Yang Han said slowly. Hearing this, the eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others all lit up. What they lacked the most right now was information about the celestial realm. The fact that Yang Han was willing to explain the situation to them made them extremely happy. Then I'll have to trouble City Lord Yang. Actually, what I know is also very ordinary information. I'm not afraid of being laughed at. All these years, because I've always wanted to enter the immortal region, but due to my lack of strength, I can only understand this information to satisfy my desire. No one had the slightest intention of laughing. Almost every cultivator in the chaotic immortal realm had the goal of entering the immortal region. Many people had the same obsession as Yang Han, but he deliberately asked about this information. It was clear that he was really looking forward to it. The immortal region has 13 continents, which are divided into 13 regions. In fact, each region is extremely large. Chapter 7309. I think that when it wakes up, its strength should have increased again, Bailey Yunyan said expectantly. However, she then revealed a worried look. Beichen already has a very powerful contract beast. Do you think it will affect him? When the nine-tailed Inferno Fox became D. Beichen's contract beast, it had requested that D. Beichen go to the immortal domain to find another demonic beast. The nine-tailed Inferno Fox said that the demonic beast's strength was stronger than it. Everyone was looking forward to it. However, no one would have thought that another demonic beast would suddenly appear at this time. If that demonic beast hadn't appeared, then they wouldn't have been able to keep their lives. I've thought about that as well. Emperor Xiaofeng revealed a helpless expression. Let's wait until the nine-tailed Inferno Fox wakes up. Beichen's contract beast is terrifyingly strong, which is a good thing. Moreover, I see that Beichen has a lot of contracted beasts now. He is the same as Hong Zhuang. There is no limit to the number of contracted beasts. Maybe he will have another helper when the time comes. Hearing this, Bailey Yunyan nodded slightly. If that's the case, that would be great. D. Beichen and Zhang Sun stayed in the mine for a few days. After the incident with Zhang Sun, everyone had confirmed that D. Beichen was the boss of the mine. No one dared to do anything rash. Not only that, D. Beichen directly told everyone that he would leave the mine from time to time, and during his absence things would be handed over to Zhou Su and Zhou Su to handle. If such a problem occurred when he returned, he would definitely not be polite. Everyone nodded in agreement, and no one dared to voice any objections. At the same time, D. Beichen also proposed another thing. If some mines were too inefficient, he could allocate some spirit-devouring stones from mine number 65 to help the supervisor pass the assessment. This news was like music to everyone's ears. No one had expected D. Beichen to make such a decision, but it was a great help to them. Usually, everyone would be able to pass the assessment, but this kind of thing couldn't be guaranteed. Sometimes this kind of problem might occur. Every time this kind of problem arose, the days would become very difficult to pass. But now that D. Beichen had brought it up, it had undoubtedly helped everyone solve one of their worries. Immediately, everyone respected D. Beichen even more. D. Beichen was different from Yuan Gang. Yuan Gang only knew how to exploit, but D. Beichen was different. Lei Jun saw that everyone's attitude towards D. Beichen had become very cordial, and a trace of admiration rose in his heart. This guy was really too amazing. With just one move, he had already won over people's hearts perfectly. It seemed like he had paid some spirit-devouring stones, but when he thought about it carefully, this kind of submission came from the bottom of his heart. It had simply solved too many future problems. The most important thing was that the two of them had obviously found a better way, and these spirit-devouring stones were nothing in their eyes. Moreover, now that they had left again, no one would be dissatisfied and no one would even report this matter. Jichuan, I find that you are getting smarter and smarter these days. Even I can't help admiring you. Zhou Su said with a smile. That's because you didn't notice it before. D. Beichen smiled faintly. We're going out for a while again? Zhou Su was slightly startled and his face suddenly fell. Going out again? We shouldn't be away for so long this time. We should be back in less than half a month. D. Beichen said. Chapter 7310. You don't have to worry about him. This guy is troublesome. Lei Jun glanced at Zhou Su and said, now the mine is no longer the same as before. Everyone is sincerely convinced by you, so there shouldn't be any more trouble. You can rest assured. Seeing this, Zhou Su nodded. Yes, you can rest assured. After the two of them explained the matter properly, they embarked on the journey to find Chen Yangyi. The situation in the mine may be more complicated for others to solve, but as long as you don't care about the benefits here, it is undoubtedly the easiest to solve. The reason why Yuan Gang had always been complained about was that he had been oppressing others, and they didn't need it, so there was much less trouble. When they came to Chen Yangyi's residence again, he was obviously not surprised by their arrival. Your performance last time was really unexpected. Chen Yangyi looked at the two of them in front of him with a faint smile on his face. You know? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows, but she was not too surprised. With Chen Yangyi's information, the news should have reached his ears soon. Chen Yangyi nodded slightly and his eyes fell on D. Beichen. It seems that I have to take back what I said last time. Chen Yangyi just said this, but did not explain which sentence he was referring to. Bailey Hongzhuang thought carefully, and suddenly remembered that Qian Yangyi once said that Di Beichen's strength might not be able to threaten him. Perhaps after the last incident, Qian Yangyi found that the situation was not so. Let's get straight to the point. What do you want to ask me today? Qian Yangyi spread out his hands. Do you want to know where that woman is now? No. Di Beichen's eyes were deep. I want to ask you about a secret. Secret? Qian Yangyi raised his eyebrows. What do you mean? The reason why the Duxian domain is sealed. Qian Yangyi's expression changed slightly. Why do you want to ask about this? I don't seem to need to answer this. How much? Just say it. Bailey Hongzhuang said. However, Qian Yangyi didn't mention the money directly. Instead, he looked at the two of them for a while before saying, I can't answer this question. What? Qian Yangyi fell silent for a moment before he said, Don't tell me that all of you intend to change the current situation in the celestial region? Even if the two of you might be from the immortal realms, the matters here are decided by many people. With just the two of you, it's basically impossible to change everything. Since you've done business with me, this is my advice to you. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang understood a little. Qian Yangyi definitely knew everything. The reason why the crossing celestial domain had become like this should be the joint decision of many forces. In their current situation, it was no different from striking a rock with an egg. I didn't expect you to be so concerned about us. Di Beichen looked at Qian Yangyi and said slowly, I'm a righteous person. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but laugh. Qian Yangyi's expression suddenly became very stiff. Miss Bailey, what do you mean by suddenly laughing? Nothing, I just suddenly felt like laughing. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand, trying to cover up everything, but it was obviously useless. To be honest, we don't want to change all of this. Chapter 73:11. After Di Beichen understood what Qian Yangyi meant, he knew that it would be very difficult to change the situation in the crossing immortal domain. However, if he wanted to achieve what he wanted, there were other ways. Let me put it in another way. I want to know how I can prevent my family members from suffering from mining after they ascend. After hearing this, Qian Yangyi understood. I see. He fell into silence. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. According to their judgment, Qian Yangyi should know about this relative method. Could it be that they couldn't tell him? While the two of them were hesitating, Qian Yangyi suddenly raised his finger. Fixed price, 600 high-grade blood spirit stones. Although they had already guessed that with this guy's black-hearted nature, he would definitely ask for an exorbitant price, but the fact that he asked for 600 high-grade blood spirit stones made the two of them feel that this guy was simply robbing them of their money. High-grade blood spirit stones were very popular in the crossing immortal domain. With the income of an ordinary person, it would take many years of hard work to obtain so many blood spirit stones. However, this guy said it as if it was an ordinary thing. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but think of Gong Jun. If this guy was here, he would have directly confronted Qian Yangyi. Qian Yangyi obviously didn't expect that there would be an awkward silence after he said those words. He just quietly looked at Di Beichen and Li Du, but he wasn't too anxious. You're so black-hearted. Do you really have any business? Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly asked. Qian Yangyi couldn't help but spit out the mouthful of tea that he had just drunk. Cough, cough, cough. These words. Is it really okay to be so blunt? Bailey Hongzhuang said calmly, I'm really curious. If you don't open for business for 10 years, you can eat for 10 years once you open for business. That's probably the case, Di Beichen said slowly. Qian Yangyi wanted to pretend, but Di Beichen saw right through him. Most importantly, he felt as if he had been seen through by Di Beichen. In fact, he had always killed as many as he could. Previously, when we asked you to help us gather information, it naturally took some effort. But this time the matter is not so complicated. I think you already know this kind of thing in your heart, so you don't need to bother to gather information at all. The price is twice as high as before. Isn't it a bit too high? Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Qian Yangyi. She felt that even if it was for the sake of Gong Jun, she could not allow herself to be slaughtered without any struggle. Previously, I was only helping you find a person. Now this concerns the future of your family. Is this price still not enough? You can sell this information again and again. Who knows how many people you sold it to before? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. How can you charge such a high price for this kind of information that isn't first-hand? Aren't you being too dishonest in doing business? I'm being dishonest? Qian Yangyi looked anxious. I've always been fair in doing business. Even if it's black-hearted, it's because the other party is willing to do it. We won't bargain with you. It's a fixed price. Before Bailey Hongzhuang could finish, Di Beichen's voice had already sounded. 100. 100? Chen Yangyi's voice pierced through the sky. He stood up immediately. Is this how you bargain? You can leave. I'm not doing business with you anymore. Chapter 73:12. Chen Yangyi's face fell. Clearly he was no longer willing to talk to the two of them. Di Beichen also stood up. His handsome and devilish face was expressionless. His star-like eyes narrowed slightly, vaguely emitting a dangerous aura. I remember, you said that you were weaker than me. In a split second, Chen Yangyi seemed to have been struck by lightning as he looked at Di Beichen in astonishment. Are you threatening me? Looks like you don't even want to save 100 high-grade spirit stones. Chen Yangyi couldn't help but recall the news he had heard before. Then he waved his hand. No, 100 it is. I promise you. He tidied up his clothes and sat down again. A faint smile returned to his face as if nothing had happened. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen in amazement. She didn't expect Beichen to be so much better at bargaining than her. In just a short while he had saved 500 blood spirit stones. How excited would Gong Jun be if he knew about this? You can speak now, Di Beichen said. Chen Yangyi looked at the impeccable godlike man in front of him with a face full of unwillingness. He felt that he shouldn't have said such a thing before. Now all the authority was in Di Beichen's hands. What you want is for your clansmen to not be caught to mine after they ascend to the crossing immortal domain, and to have a proper identity here, right? Not bad. Actually, this is not a very difficult thing. With your strength, you should be able to do it very quickly. You mean? Aren't you in the mine now? All the cultivators who had ascended were basically captured and sent to work in the mines. As the managers of the mine, it's easy for you to solve this kind of problem. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. As far as I know, the steward doesn't have such an ability. She had already been to the place where the cultivators ascended, and all the cultivators who appeared there would be evenly distributed to each mine. As stewards, they only had a quota for their own mines at most. Other than that, they could not transfer people away at all. I can't be a manager, but I can be a consul. Chen Yangyi spread out his hands. I think it shouldn't be difficult for you. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two also understood. It turned out that they were the stewards of the mine from the very beginning. This was actually a great help to them. As long as I become a consul, I can protect my people. Your people can avoid being caught and sent to mine. However, if you want to live a good life in the crossing immortal domain, it will depend on your own abilities. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang understood. She didn't expect things to be so simple. In the past, they thought that only by solving the situation in the crossing immortal domain would their clansmen be able to safely pass through the upper realm. They didn't expect that the solution to this problem would become much simpler. Although there would still be some hidden dangers in this way, it was undoubtedly the best way for now. Thank you, we're leaving. Bailey Hongzhuang stood up and placed 10 pieces of high-grade blood spirit stones on the table. Chen Yangyi looked at the blood spirit stones on the table and his face was filled with confusion. Wait, what do you mean by this? This problem is so simple. Aren't you embarrassed to charge so much? Bailey Hongzhuang rolled her eyes. This guy didn't actually say anything important. If they had known this earlier, perhaps they would have talked to the consul earlier. Chapter 73:13. It was already very generous of him to give 10 high-grade blood spirit stones. F***CK. Chen Yangyi was just about to argue about this issue when he noticed Di Beichen's cold gaze. He could only swallow all the words back into his stomach and didn't dare to say anything else. This guy was definitely a wife-doting maniac. After leaving the courtyard, Bailey Hongzhuang was in a very good mood. She didn't expect Chen Yangyi to be so easy to bully. At the end of the day, it was all because of Bao Bao. I hope the baby can pass through the enchantment as soon as possible, then we can be unscrupulous in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but chuckle. I'm afraid it won't be easy for it to pass through the barrier, but it's only a matter of time. Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. Feeling the familiar warmth, his heart calmed down. During this period of time, many things had happened that he could not explain. For example, what happened in the land of heritage and the appearance of the baby. He did not know what all of this meant. On one hand, this seemed to indicate his strength and the possibility of him becoming even stronger. On the other hand, a faint worry rose in his heart. To him, strength was something that could be achieved through hard work. However, this feeling of unease made him feel very uncomfortable. Therefore, he wanted to protect everything he wanted to protect, and the woman beside him was his most important treasure. Beichen, what's wrong with you? Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that Di Beichen's hand had unconsciously tightened. She couldn't help but turn her head to look at him with a trace of doubt in her eyes. Did I hurt you? Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and found that it was a little red. He couldn't help but feel distressed. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and shook her head. I'm fine. It's just that I feel like you have something on your mind? Nothing. Di Beichen shook his head slightly. If there's anything, just tell me. Bailey Hongzhuang stopped in her tracks. Her clear eyes stared seriously at that handsome face. We promised that there would be no secrets. Di Beichen's eyes, which were as deep as the sea, seemed to ripple. However, when he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, he calmed down. The corners of his lips curled up slightly. He moved closer and planted a kiss on the woman's fair forehead. There have never been any secrets between us. With that in mind, Di Beichen decided to tell Bailey Hongzhuang about his doubts about the baby. There should never be any secrets between them. He did not know what would happen in the future, but he felt that it would be good for Hongzhuang to understand everything that had happened. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart sank. Actually, I've always been confused about these things. Back then, when I was comprehending the tablets, I once felt a very familiar tablet. However, I don't know why, but someone pushed it into another tablet. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. She had always kept this matter in mind. She felt that that person's words contained too much meaning. She told me that I shouldn't think about the things that I chose to forget back then. I don't know what she meant by that either. However, if she didn't find the wrong person, then it means that I've forgotten some things. However, I've never lost my memory. Hearing this, Di Beichen's eyes changed slightly. He always thought that he was the only one who had such a situation. He never thought that Hongzhuang had encountered a similar situation. Chapter 73:14. If he was the only one who encountered this situation, it might be a coincidence. But if both of them encountered this situation, then it was really a bit confusing. So, I'm not the only one who encountered this situation. Then why is that? Bailey Hongzhuang was confused. My situation can be explained. Maybe I encountered some illusion in the tablet, but your situation is really strange. So far, she had only encountered such a situation once. Although it left a deep impression in her heart, but thinking about it carefully, it might not be true. However, such things happened to Beichen one after another. There might be some connection between all these things, but they obviously couldn't figure it out yet. Maybe I really did forget something. Di Beichen looked a bit confused. When Bao Bao appears, I can have a good talk with him about this problem. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. That's true. When that time comes, we will have an answer. Everything now was just their imagination. If they really wanted to understand everything, they just had to talk to Bao Bao in detail and they would know the truth. Fortunately, they didn't have to rely on themselves to figure it out. Someone could answer this question. Di Beichen's depressed mood brightened up. No matter what, it's good that you're by my side. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips bloomed into a sunny smile. Of course. The two returned to the returning Qin Tower. Di Xiaofeng and the others also came back. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief when they heard that the matter wasn't that complicated. It's easy to say that you want to become a consul, but it shouldn't be easy to do it, right? Shengguan Yingying frowned. There should be conditions for this promotion. I think this kind of thing is just a matter of time for Beichen and the others. As long as they want to speed up, they should have a way. Xiren looked casual. He wasn't worried about this problem at all. We're not very clear now, but it shouldn't be difficult to get this information in the mine. Di Beichen's face was as calm as the wind. He believed that every steward of the mine was looking forward to the position of consul. Everyone must be working hard for this position. They didn't even need to ask the other consuls. They only needed to ask Zhou Su and Wang Yao to find out. Then I'll leave the rest to you. Di Xiaofeng patted Di Beichen's shoulder. I'll tell father this good news when I go back. He's been wanting to come to Crossing Immortal Domain for a long time. Di Beichen smiled faintly. I won't disappoint you. Gong Jun couldn't help but ask, how much did that guy kill? Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Gong Jun and realized that he was staring nervously at Di Beichen. His hands were clenched unconsciously, and he looked like he would jump up and down if he heard a number that exceeded his expectations. 600. What? Gong Jun's eyes immediately turned red. 600 for such information. Why doesn't that guy go out and rob? Ling and the others were dumbfounded. This price was indeed too much. Even if they didn't pay for it, they still felt pain when they heard it. He's simply a beast. Beichen bargained. Bailey Hongzhuang saw how excited Gong Jun was and couldn't help but add. Chapter 73:15. Hearing this, Gong Jun's expression eased a little. How much did you return? 100. 500 for this kind of information? Why doesn't he just rob someone? Gong Jun was still depressed. Although this price was slightly lower, 500 high-grade blood spiritual stones was still not a price he could accept. It's not 500, it's 100. He even bargained up to 100. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes rippled with a faint smile as she looked at Gong Jun's excited appearance with ridicule. This guy's character of treating money as his life was really interesting. Gong Jun and the others couldn't help but gasp for breath. The difference between 100 and 500 was huge. Beichen, I haven't seen you for a while, but your bargaining skills have improved quite a bit. When Ziren looked at Di Beichen in amazement. Previously, he had not realized that this guy actually had such an ability. I have to support my family. When Ziren's expression stiffened. What this guy meant by support the family? Did it include him? Seeing that when Ziren, who had always been talkative, was silenced by Di Beichen's words, Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but laugh out loud. Then you have to support your family. 100 blood spirit stones isn't a small amount. That's why Hongzhuang only gave me 10 blood spirit stones, Di Beichen replied. Women are better at keeping accounts. Why do I feel like I'm your son? Ziren couldn't help but ask. Bai Liyan Che spat out a mouthful of tea. Ziren, do you have to be so dramatic? Can't you just let me have a sip of tea? I'm telling the truth. Ziren spread his hands. Don't you think so? Bai Liyan Che's expression froze. I was originally Big Sister's contracted beast. F***CK, aren't you a little too cunning? Ziren was dumbfounded. He simply couldn't refute this answer. For this kind of information, I think we should just give him $10. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and looked at Gong Jun. Not bad, right? Sister-in-law, you're truly brilliant. Gong Jun gave her a thumbs up. 10 blood spirit stones is already giving him a lot of face. In a world of darkness, winding black rocks covered the ground. Large swathes of red spider lilies bloomed in all directions, emitting a bewitching beauty. A man and a woman stood facing each other. The woman was wearing a long black dress, revealing her exquisite collarbone. Her fair and smooth neck was like a shining jade, and one could faintly see her towering breasts. Even though it was just a little ravine, it exuded a fatal charm. Her unparalleled appearance was not tainted with purity. It carried a unique charm, and her dark red lips were extremely seductive. At a glance, anyone could not help but admit that she was a stunner. However, at this moment, the woman's expression was not pleasant. Her fan-like eyelashes fluttered slightly, and her deep eyes were as dark and dangerous as the night sky. Fourth brother, I heard that you've been sending people everywhere to gather information recently? You should know that there are some things that you can't meddle with. Big sister, I don't understand what you're saying. The man chuckled and shook his head. His calm and collected appearance made it seem as if he could not feel the woman's intimidating pressure, and he easily dispelled it with little effort. His appearance was just as handsome as before, but it was less seductive and more feminine. His every move was filled with a natural elegance. His fair skin was hidden under his black robe, and his collar was turned up, revealing a trace of red. Contrasting with his extraordinarily handsome face, he was as beautiful as a fairy. Chapter 73:16. The woman coldly looked at the calm and collected Lien, her eyes revealing a trace of ridicule. It's fine if you put on an act in front of outsiders with such an image, but your poor acting skills can be seen through at a glance. The cold and indifferent voice emitted disdain from the bottom of his heart. A crack seemed to have appeared on the man's impeccable face, and a dim light flashed through his bright eyes. I advise you to stop what you're doing right now. I can overlook your little tricks, but if you don't stop and even try to stop him from coming back, I'll let you know the meaning of the word regret. The woman snorted coldly and left after saying that. Only then did the man raise his eyes and look at the woman's swaying back view. His hands under his sleeves gradually clenched into fists as killing intent boiled in his eyes. However, all of this happened in the blink of an eye. When he raised his head again, the man's flawless smile had once again appeared on his face. Your Highness, what should we do now? I'm afraid the first princess already knows what we're doing. Does she really think that without that guy around all the power here will be under her control? The man's smile was bloodthirsty and mocking. We can't let that guy come back. Even if he does, it will be his corpse. Yes. After Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the mine, Zhou Su and Zhou Su breathed a sigh of relief. You guys are really fast this time. You didn't let us down. Zhou Su laughed. Shall we go out for a drink tonight? All right. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and smiled. She knew that as long as this fellow had a chance to leave, he would definitely not reject it. After 3 rounds of wine, Zhou Su was already a little drunk. Although the Lei army was slightly better, it was not much better. You want to become a consul? Lei Jun asked. Isn't that nonsense? Zhou Su put down his wine glass. As stewards, who doesn't aim to become a consul? However, in order to become a consul, there must be a vacancy for a consul first. When the time comes, a new consul will be selected based on past achievements and strength. Ji Chuan, don't worry. With your strength, it's only a matter of time before you become a consul. Think about it. You're the boss in our mind now. If there's a chance, everyone will recommend you. Besides, the others can't beat you. How long does it usually take for an opportunity to appear? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Zhou Su shook his head. I don't know. You can ask the consul. Anyway, you are quite familiar with the consul. I think the speed of the change should be quite fast, and I heard that our consul will be promoted soon. When the time comes, the position of consul will be empty. With your relationship with the consul, he will definitely promote you. Lei Jun raised his glass. Ji Chuan, I'd like to propose a toast to you. When you become a consul, you must take good care of us. Clang. Zhou Su had not even raised his cup when he was already drunk. Lei Jun insisted on drinking this cup of wine, and then he lost consciousness. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head helplessly. These 2 guys were really easy to deceive. At this moment they said everything. It's not far from the consul's next inspection. Let's just wait. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Di Beichen nodded. Okay. Chapter 73-17. In the following period of time, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had a rather leisurely time. Gong Jun used the money they saved to buy a sizable courtyard in the city, which would be the future base of the Di family. Look, these blood spirit stones were well spent. It's much better than being cheated by that black-hearted bastard. Looking at such a large mansion, Gong Jun felt refreshed. Di Xiaofeng and the others had already picked a room to stay in. With the number of people we have now, we don't need such a big mansion. So what? Gong Jun said in a rich and overbearing manner. Qin Returning Tower's reputation here is not small. We have to find a more imposing place to stay so that we can live up to our status. Is that really the case? Bai Li Yinche asked doubtfully. This fellow was essentially a miser. Previously, Gong Jun had used Returning Imperial Tower to earn a lot of money, but he had never heard him mention the idea of changing locations. Isn't boss's father coming soon? We need to find a better place to stay. Gong Jun chuckled. Realization dawned on everyone. I knew it wasn't for us. Gong Jun, you are so good to Beichen. Will your future wife be jealous? Shengguan Yingying couldn't help but tease. If that's the case, why would I want this daughter-in-law? Shengguan Yingying, everyone, Gong Jun shrugged. Is there a problem? No, on such a leisurely day, Di Beichen and Huang Tianggui finally welcomed Huang Tianggui. After I went back the last time, I really can't forget the fruits of the Imperial Returning Tower. Huang Tianggui's face was full of smiles. I recommended it to the other consuls, but they always felt that I was lying, so I planned to bring a few more fruits back for them to try. No problem. Di Beichen looked normal. As long as you're happy, consul. Huang Tianggui's eyes flashed with pleasant surprise. He looked at Di Beichen and said, I think highly of you. Thank you, consul. Di Beichen smiled. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Huang Tianggui, that sly old fox, and felt a little annoyed in her heart. This guy was obviously saying all kinds of probing words to take advantage of her. After arriving at Returning Qin restaurant, he first ordered all the signature dishes here. He had even eaten 2 of the fruits. Now he was still thinking of taking a few more fruits with him. It was one thing for him to be greedy, but he had to put on an expression as if he was giving her face, which made her feel like he was an eyesore. We just happened to have a vacancy for a consul recently. I was thinking about who I could recommend. Huang Tianggui raised his eyebrows and stopped talking. Hearing this, how could Di Beichen not understand his meaning? He immediately waved his hand and said, 3 more servings of fruits, what do you plan to do, consul? Huang Tianggui's expression became even more proud when he heard this, and the corners of his lips gradually curled up. I plan to choose a capable person from our mind to be the next consul. What do you recommend? Consul is so wise, you must already have a plan in mind. Di Beichen smiled faintly. Shopkeeper, 3 more servings of fruits. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her hand and said. Huang Tianggui nodded slightly. In this mine, I think your recent performance has been very good. If there are no accidents, he stopped talking again, and his eyes fell on Di Beichen and Huang Tianggui. Chapter 73:18. F***ck, this guy is really shameless? Gong Jun looked at Huang Tiangui's greedy face and his eyes were filled with disgust. I've already raised the stakes a few times but you're still greedy? This kind of guy is a mercenary. Just look at his cunning appearance and you'll understand. He must want to take advantage of this opportunity to earn some money. When Ziren shook his head. They had long guessed that Huang Tiangui would definitely not be polite with such an opportunity. However, this fellow was simply too greedy. Huang Tiangui's heart was as clear as a mirror as how much they usually sold these fruits for. What they said about giving them to friends was just a disguised request. He was certain that even a consul would not be able to afford such expensive fruits. Huang Tiangui himself would probably feel the pinch if he came here himself. The reason why he was like this now was undoubtedly because the money was paid by someone else, so he didn't feel any heartache at all. The more I look at this guy's face, the more I hate him. Shangguan Yingying couldn't bear it anymore. At this moment, Beichen had increased the price again. Even though they knew that Beichen had a lot of fruits in his possession, these things were indeed very precious. Now that it was taken away by such a fat guy, they felt angry just thinking about it. I think with such a price, even if Beichen and the others did well in the mine, even if they weren't originally from the mine, they could directly buy the position of consul with such a price. That can't be helped. This guy is clearly relying on money. Fortunately, Beichen and the others have money. Ziren spread out his hands. Beichen and the others had already expected such a situation, so when this happened, they were mentally prepared. 3 more servings of fruits. In the Qin returning restaurant, everyone's gaze fell on D. Beichen's table. That was because the momentum was simply too frightening. In just a short time, there were already more than a dozen fruits on the table. Normally, it was already very impressive for someone to order one fruit at a sky-high price. Now there were more than 10 of them. Together with this table of food and wine, it was truly a sky-high price. With such a price, even if it was just a rough calculation, everyone could not help but be stunned. Who are these people? That's too extravagant. I've been to Qin Returning Tower so many times, but this is the first time I've seen such a grand display. Normally, I feel that the people in the city are already rich enough. However, compared to these 2 people, the difference is huge. Obviously, they were not the ones who were paying, but looking at D. Beichen's calm face as he increased the price again and again, their hearts could not help but ache. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Huang Tiangui, whose smile was getting wider and wider, yet he still had not relented. A trace of disgust appeared in her eyes. If it weren't for the fact that she didn't want to completely fall out with him, she would have already fallen out with him. D. Beichen's expression was as usual. He turned a blind eye to the other party's shameless behavior and raised the price one by one until the other party fainted. Huang Tiangui was also shocked by D. Beichen's extravagance. He knew that D. Beichen was very extravagant, but this was the first time he had seen such extravagance. Fortunately, such good luck had fallen on him. This time when he returned, he could hold his head high. These fruits, not to mention turning into cultivation resources, would definitely shock people if they were exposed to the sun. Chapter 73:19. Looking at the table full of fruits, D. Beichen's calm gaze fell on Huang Tiangui. His voice was as gentle as the sound of nature. Consul Huang, I've always admired you. I'm sure you understand what I mean. Of course, if you have other candidates in mind, I won't force you. D. Beichen smiled faintly. You're a busy person and I don't want to waste your time. Unlike his previous friendliness, there was now a trace of indifference in his voice. Huang Tiangui was a shrewd person, so how could he not understand the meaning of these words? D. Beichen had already made his stance clear. He was going to raise the price to this point. If he still didn't agree, then so be it. Don't even think about taking any of these fruits away. Shangguan Yingying placed the last plate of fruits on the table and said, Guest, we have all the fruits for today. If you want more, I'm afraid you'll have to wait until tomorrow. Hearing this, a smile appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Yingying's character had always been quite fiery. She must have seen how greedy Huang Tiangui was and couldn't stand it anymore, so she ran over to leave such a sentence. After hearing this, Huang Tiangui completely gave up on this idea. In fact, this kind of harvest had already exceeded his expectations. However, when his gaze fell on Shangguan Yingying, a look of amazement appeared in his eyes. He had already noticed this attendant earlier. Compared to the other attendants, she was undoubtedly much prettier. Walking in the returning Qin Tower was pleasing to the eye. If it was any other day, he would just admire it. After all, this Qin returning tower looked extraordinary and it would not be easy to make a move against the attendants here. However, things were different now that Di Baichen was here. Since the last time he went back, he had investigated Ji Chuan and Gu Jian's background. The result of the investigation was nothing special, and he didn't find any powerful background. However, after coming into contact with them, he understood that these two people must have some kind of power behind them. Otherwise, it would be impossible for two mine managers to have such a background. The other party was someone with a strong background, and at the same time he also had a favor to ask of him. It would be a pity if he didn't make good use of him. I want her. Shangguan Yingying's departing figure was suddenly pulled back. She was startled at first, and then her expression became abnormally ugly. What the hell was this damn guy talking about? Bailey Hongzhuang and Huang Tiangue didn't expect Huang Tiangue to suddenly make such a request. For a moment they even suspected that they had misheard. I want this woman to accompany me for a night. Huang Tiangue's drooling eyes looked at Shangguan Yingying unscrupulously. This woman was really beautiful. If he could get his hands on her, the taste would be even better. Pa. Shangguan Yingying slapped Huang Tiangue's face. She didn't expect this guy to be so disgusting. He even had ideas about her. Especially the other party's unbridled gaze, it made her want to vomit. When Xiren's expression was extremely ugly as he rushed out. Bastard, what did you say? I dare you to say it again. Who are you? Huang Tiangue looked at Wen Xiren, who had suddenly rushed out and was momentarily stunned. However, he quickly realized that this woman was most likely already taken, and this man was naturally the man in front of him. You spoke rudely to my wife, and now you ask who I am? Chapter 73:20. Bang. Xiren did not hold back and punched Huang Tiangue in the eye. In an instant, Huang Tiangue had panda eyes. When the cultivators in the returning Imperial Tower saw this scene, their interest was piqued. Originally, they were unhappy and jealous when they saw Huang Tiangue's greedy gaze. Now that this fellow had stirred up such trouble, it was undoubtedly the best outcome. In any case, they just wanted to see this fellow's unlucky appearance. Gong Jun hurriedly stood up and said to the guests in the restaurant, "Today this table is Chen Lu's treat. Right now there are other matters to attend to. I hope that everyone can leave. I'm really sorry." Gong Jun's tone was sincere and his attitude was very good. In addition, everyone was not at a disadvantage, so they all left the returning Qin Tower. The only pity was that they wouldn't be able to see the aftermath of this matter, so they were a little itchy. After everyone left, Gong Jun immediately closed the door of the restaurant. At this moment Huang Tiangue also reacted. To him, he did not want to offend the Imperial Returning Tower. Because he felt that this Imperial Returning restaurant was so extraordinary, its background must be very impressive. The person he valued was just a waiter, so it shouldn't be a big deal. However, now that he had fallen into such a situation, he could not help but feel a little flustered. Fortunately, he was relieved to see that Di Baichen was still by his side. I didn't know she was already taken, Huang Tiangue explained, but his eyes were filled with disdain. It's good enough that I'm interested in her. What can you do? When Xiren heard this, he became even angrier. How could there be such an arrogant beast in this world? Most importantly, this guy dared to say such words in front of him. Wasn't he looking for a beating? If I don't kill you today, I'm not Xiren Wen. Xiren's anger rose in an instant. How dare he have designs on his wife? He must kill him. Bang. The elemental energy within Xiren's body suddenly burst forth, and he struck out with a punch once again. This bastard, he must kill him. Huang Tiangue did not think much of Xiren. As a consul he still had some power. However, when Xiren rushed over, he suddenly realized that for some reason, he was unable to exert any strength, and immediately turned pale with fright. You actually used poison? He was sure that he had been poisoned for him to suddenly fall into such a situation. When Shangguan Yingying heard this, she knew that it was Bailey Hongzhuang's doing. Xiren, however, did not care so much at this moment. He punched Huang Tiangue's face, punch after punch after punch. In just a short period of time, Huang Tiangue's face had already turned into a pig's head, and blood was flowing from the corner of his lips. Ji Chuan, help me deal with this guy and I'll recommend you for the position of consul. Huang Tiangue looked at Di Baichen. His fighting strength was limited at this moment. Even if Di Baichen and Di Baichen were the same as him, they would not dare to mess around with Di Baichen's background. However, Di Baichen only looked at Huang Tiangue indifferently, and then stepped on his face. He ruthlessly crushed it. Huang Tiangue wanted to say something, but he could not say a word. He widened his eyes. He could not believe that Di Baichen dared to treat him like this. Bailey Hongzhuang also kicked him. She did not hold back at all, and her eyes were filled with disgust. I already dislike you, and now you dare to speak rudely to Ying. Are you looking for death? Chapter 73:21. How dare you do this? Huang Tiangui didn't speak until Di Beichen retracted his foot. His eyes were still filled with disbelief. These two clearly had a favor to ask of him, but now they actually beat him up for a waiter. Was there something wrong with them? You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Di Beichen shook his head slightly. Since you're not willing to recommend me to become the consul of another place, then I'll just kill you and take over your position. The reason why he didn't directly attack Huang Tiangui was because he felt that it wouldn't be so troublesome to get information from an acquaintance in the position of consul. He didn't want to keep this guy alive, but it would be more troublesome. Since that was the case, he had to cut his losses in time and eliminate this guy. Huang Tiangui felt a chill run down his spine. His eyes were filled with fear. He never thought that Di Beichen would have such thoughts. I was indeed too much before. I promise that as long as you save me now, I'll definitely recommend you to become the new consul. Huang Tiangui hurriedly spoke, but the malicious look in his eyes couldn't be concealed. The reason why he was willing to promote Di Beichen was because he saw that there were benefits to be gained. This guy actually dared to do such a thing to him. When he got out, he would definitely teach Di Beichen a lesson. Consul Huang, when you promise benefits, you should at least be more sincere. Cover up the hatred in your eyes just like I did before. Bailey Hongzhuang clicked her tongue and shook her head. With your current appearance, you're too careless. I can see through it at a glance. Huang Tiangui was slightly startled. Before he could react to the multiple layers of meaning in Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Shangguan Yingying's blade had already struck the vital part of his lower body. An earth-shattering scream rang out. Even outside the restaurant, everyone could hear it clearly. Huang Tiangui's face instantly turned red. The veins on his face bulged out from the pain, making him look extremely terrifying. When Ziren and the others saw this scene, they couldn't help but tighten their lower body. Sure enough, when a woman attacked, it was really terrifying. Just thinking about the pain in this vital part of the body was enough to know how painful it was. Bastard, you deserve it. Shangguan Yingying said fiercely. She felt humiliated when she thought about how she was targeted by such a person and how much he had thought about her in such a short time. Ziren, I'll leave it to you. Di Beichen didn't look at Huang Tiangui anymore. Instead, he pulled Bailey Hongzhuang to the side. It's too bloody. It's better if you don't watch it. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Are you worried that I'll learn from Yingying? Di Beichen's face darkened. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Not to mention anything else, Yingying's move had scared her. It was even more unbearable than directly killing the other party. This Huang Tiangui should have something on him as well. Today's business is worth it. Di Beichen said slowly as he looked at Gong Jun, who seemed to be in pain. Gong Jun's eyes lit up. The painful expression on his face disappeared in an instant. This guy is so greedy. I think he should have a lot of things. It's indeed worth it. Gong Jun had already rushed over and took off Huang Tiangui's storage ring. When Huang Tiangui saw how impolite Gong Jun was, he was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. Shameless. Too shameless. The next day, everything returned to normal. Di Beichen and Shangguan Yingying returned to the mine as if nothing had happened. End of chapter. Chapter 73:32. Have you heard? Last night, someone molested a waiter at Chin Returning Restaurant. I wonder what happened after that. Chin Returning Restaurant's background must not be simple. Because of this incident, the people who ate last night did not even have to pay the bill. Think about it. Every table was expensive. In my opinion, Chin Returning Restaurant is rich and imposing. Its background is also very shocking. If it was any other restaurant, it would just be a waiter. Why would they spend so much effort? However, this person is really blind. Of all the places to stir up trouble, he just had to go to Chin Returning Restaurant. He deserves to end up like this. After this incident, the image of the returning imperial restaurant in everyone's mind became even more unfathomable. The background of this restaurant was definitely not simple. Even a waiter inside could not be easily offended. No one knew what would happen if they offended the waiter. However, the scream at that time was still clearly heard by many people. In the mine, everyone saw that Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang had returned, but they did not see the consul. They could not help but have all sorts of guesses in their hearts. Even in the tent, Bailey Hongzhuang could hear all sorts of discussions coming from outside. In the past, the consul would stay in the mine for 2 to 3 days. Today was only the second day and they did not see him. This was naturally a little strange. Master, what do we do now? Xiao He was a little worried. They originally had the idea of pleasing Huang Tiangre. Now, forget about pleasing him, they would directly obliterate the other party. With so many people watching this matter, they had no choice but to explain, this place is not very big. Coupled with Chen returning restaurant's influence, we don't need to say anything. This news will quickly spread in the mine. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was as usual. Up until now, no one knew their relationship with Chen returning restaurant. As such, as long as they used Chen returning restaurant as a cover, everything would become very simple. You can completely shirk the responsibility like this? Xiaobai was in disbelief. Won't the higher-ups investigate? If the people under your command were to take liberties with women, and the matter became known to everyone, would you investigate? Di Beichen asked. Xiaobai shook her head. No. They had already lost so much face. If they were to investigate further, wouldn't they be laughed at again? That's it. Bailey Hongzhuang poured a cup of tea and took a sip. So, we just have to wait for the news. What we need to worry about now is whether the higher-ups will directly appoint someone to be our consul. If the higher-ups directly selected one of them to be the consul, it would undoubtedly be the best. However, if they chose to be parachuted in, they would inevitably have to spend a lot of effort. After seeing Huang Tinggui's face, they really didn't have any expectations for the people above. Seeing this, Xiao He and Xiaobai also felt relieved. They were most worried that this matter would affect them. Since it would not affect them, everything else was not a big problem. In less than half a day, the news had already spread all over the mine. Gu Jian, is the news that everyone outside true? Zhou Su did not even bother to knock on the door and directly rushed into the tent with an incredulous expression on his face. Bailey Hongzhuang looked helplessly at the person who came in. Can't you say hello when you come in? We're all men. What's there to care about? Bookmark for easy reading. Chapter 73-33. Zhou Su didn't take this matter to heart. Even if you take a bath here, I can still take a bath with you. Di Beichen's eyes flashed with a hint of sharpness. This guy has been getting bolder and bolder recently. Come on. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't expect Zhou Su to talk about such a horrifying topic. I dislike you very much. I'll go. Zhou Su rolled his eyes. No, now is not the time to talk about this. I've already heard about Guichen Tower. Was it Consul Huang who molested the waiters there last night? You all know? Di Beichen asked. As soon as these words came out, Zhou Su and Lei Jun's expressions became exceptionally strange. It's actually true? Zhou Su raised his voice. The news spread early in the morning, but at first no one was sure whether it was Consul Huang or not. How is he now? Di Beichen shook his head. I don't know. You don't know? Weren't you with Consul Huang last night? How could you not know about this? Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. We are also worried about this matter. What the hell is going on? Explain it clearly. Zhou Su looked nervous. If something happens to Consul Huang here, we will all be in trouble. Lei Jun looked at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang, who looked worried and understood. Consul Huang's life is most likely in danger. It's not easy for the two of you to still be alive. It seems that the backer of this returning imperial tower is also reasonable. Hearing this, Zhou Su still did not understand. What do you mean? Yesterday we didn't expect Consul Huang to suddenly lose his mind and flirt with the waiter. Moreover, it became more and more exaggerated. He even said nonsense in front of the waiter's husband. Bailey Hongzhuang said it simply, but Zhou Su and Zhou Yu could almost imagine the scene at that time. If it was just a young lady, it would be fine. However, she actually dared to say such outrageous words in front of her husband. If it was anyone else, it would be impossible for them to suppress their anger. Wasn't this courting death? And then? At that time, we apologized on behalf of the consul, but on one hand the other party didn't listen at all. On the other hand, Consul Huang didn't feel that there was anything wrong with it at all. He only felt that he was stronger and even wanted to snatch him away. The other party was very strong. Later, Ji Chuan and I were directly knocked unconscious. This morning we woke up on the street. At this point, the two of them completely understood. Obviously, Di Beichen and Consul Huang were directly thrown out after being knocked unconscious, but Consul Huang did not appear, so the outcome was obvious. Then it's over. The consul is dead for sure. Zhou Su sighed. There was helplessness between his eyebrows. I really think that the consul is looking for death. Lei Jun, what do you think? You can't casually say such words. If others hear it, we will all be in trouble. Lei Jun's expression was solemn. But I think so too. The consul is dead. Will this matter implicate us? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Lei Jun nodded. The consul is dead. Such a big matter, the higher-ups will definitely send someone to investigate. You two don't need to say more. Others may also be implicated. The consul is really seeking death. It's fine if he wants to bring us along. It's really infuriating. Chapter 73-34. This matter was caused by the consul himself. It has nothing to do with us. Bailey Hongzhuang looked anxious. We have to think of a way. We can't be implicated by this. Lei Jun, you are better at thinking of solutions. What do you think we should do in this situation? Zhou Su turned his gaze to the Lei army. Among them, the Lei army had stayed here for the longest time and could come up with the most ideas. Lei Jun pondered for a moment before saying, the only way now is to expand this news. It's best if everyone knows about it. We have to let everyone know that the consul was the one who brought this upon himself, and it was useless for us to stop him. There was no need for the higher-ups to investigate. The news would reach their ears directly. That was enough. I don't think they will spend too much effort on a drunken consul. Lei Jun looked at Ji Chuan and continued, moreover, now that the consul is dead, it's a good opportunity for you to rise. Take advantage of this opportunity and let everyone recommend you. When the time comes, your chances of success will be very high. Di Baichen raised his eyebrows slightly. Lei Jun was also a smart person, and the idea he came up with was the same as theirs. Indeed, this was the best course of action right now. Xiao He saw how her master was able to get the other party to help them come up with a plan with just a few words. She was secretly impressed by her master's ability to get the other party to help them count the money they had already thought of. This was probably the situation they were talking about. You guys stay here for now. It won't be good if you guys spread the news. It's best to let others talk about it first. At this moment, Zhou Su also understood that this was a heaven-sent opportunity. As long as Di Baichen could become the next consul, it would be of great help to them. In any case, he was the one with the most hope in the entire mine. If it were anyone else, no one would be convinced. Under such circumstances, Di Baichen and Xiao He became the most leisurely people. Watching everyone running around, Zhou Su and Xiao He carried out this matter without anyone knowing. They quietly found a stranger to talk about the matter vividly. It was just like what Qin Yan had seen. Moreover, the consul was as hateful as he could be. No matter how Di Baichen and Xiao He persuaded him, the consul was so fierce that the two of them were even injured because of the consul. After hearing all this, the managers of the mine couldn't help but feel aggrieved for Di Baichen and Xiao He. What was bad luck? This was really bad luck. The consul in everyone's eyes, and Xiao He? If it were them, the situation wouldn't be any better. Originally, this matter made everyone sympathize with Di Baichen and Xiao He. In addition, the people they arranged took the opportunity to fan the flames and magnify some of the things the consul had done infinitely, which made everyone feel disgusted. 2 days later, Lei Jun and Zhou Su showed smiles on their faces. The matter has been solved. The people in the entire mine already know the whole story. It has nothing to do with you. At that time, even if the people above come to investigate, you don't have to worry at all. You don't have to show up. There is already irrefutable evidence. Lei Jun revealed a smile. After settling this matter, he felt a lot more at ease. Chapter 73-35. This is all thanks to you. Bailey Hongzhuang thanked them. Even though everything was within their expectations, the Lei Jun duo had still put in a lot of effort for this matter. They were also grateful from the bottom of their hearts. Actually, we didn't do anything. Lei Jun waved his hand. After all, you have built a good reputation in the mine. What happened in the number 64 mine made everyone feel grateful to you. In addition, your strength is unmatched. The previous incident with Zhang Sun also gave everyone a better impression of you. Everyone feels that you are different from Yuan Gang, which is why everything has been so easy for us. Lei Jun's words were very honest. Claiming credit was something that anyone would be happy to do. However, this kind of thing was obvious. If the object of this matter was not Di Baichen but Yuan Gang, then all of this would not have happened so easily. No matter what, it's all thanks to you guys. Di Baichen smiled faintly. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze also fell on the two of them. Once they were done with everything, they would not be staying here for too long. She still remembered what happened in the small town. Lu Jin's business had to continue. She had always wanted to find a reliable person so that the business could continue. Both of them needed to find more ways to increase their cultivation resources. Leaving this matter to the two of them was undoubtedly a win-win situation. After this period of time, she also believed that the two of them were reliable people. What is there to thank us for? Zhou Su chuckled. When you become consuls, you can take care of us. We can't ask for anything more. Don't worry, I'll definitely take care of my own people. Di Beichen shook his head. This guy was always thinking about these two things. Hearing these words, Zhou Su also jumped for joy. Jichuan, I knew you were a good brother. At this time, Di Beichen could say that he was on the same side. This represented a completely different meaning. In just a few days, the higher-ups had already known the news of Huang Tiangui's death, and immediately sent people to investigate the situation. Di Beichen and Zhou Su both expected that things would come quickly, so the two of them had been staying in the mine for the past few days without leaving. Everything was carried out in an orderly manner as before. The atmosphere in the mine was very harmonious, but everyone knew that this was just the calm before the storm. When the higher-ups came, they would inevitably conduct a large-scale investigation. Fortunately, this matter was originally a fact. Even if some people had other ideas in their hearts at this time, the minority obeyed the majority, which was meaningless. Not long after, the three people sent by the higher-ups appeared in the mine. As soon as the three people walked into the mine, Di Beichen's group noticed their difference. This was because the aura emitted by the three of them was much stronger than that of ordinary people. Most of the cultivators' strength, but these three people's is obviously stronger. Most importantly, the disdainful look in their eyes had already revealed their pretentious thoughts. In an instant, everyone came out to greet them. All the managers of the mine gather here. His loud and clear voice reverberated through the mine, clearly falling into everyone's ears. Chapter 73-36. Along with this loud and intimidating voice, the stewards in the mine were all alarmed and rushed out of their tents. Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen, and the others walked directly in the direction of the three people. They had to pass today's test. Soon the stewards sighed with emotion. The stewards of hundreds of mines gathered together. The scale was not small. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the three people in front of her. There were 2 men and 1 woman. Although they looked very young, she could tell that the three of them had been cultivating for a long time. Through their clothes and waist tags, she could confirm that the three of them were the same as Huang Tiangui. They were all consul of the mine, but they did not belong to the area they were in. Consul Huang has fallen. We need to know the truth. The man on the left swept his gaze across the crowd. His sharp gaze seemed to be able to see through everything. Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. The other party's cultivation was also in the elementary celestial stage. Obviously he was using his aura to oppress them. Because her and Beichen's cultivation was not weaker than the other parties, such an aura did not affect them much. However, for the other cultivators, this pressure was not so easy to bear. Bailey Hongzhuang quietly glanced at Di Beichen. The latter had long expected such a situation and pretended to be unable to bear it. Bailey Hongzhuang's lowered eyes flashed with a smile. Beichen had learned medical skills from her. Usually he did not use it much. However, at a time like this, the effect was completely revealed. His expression of being unable to bear it was extremely realistic and did not seem like a disguise at all. Looking at the great pressure on everyone's faces, the man snorted coldly. He seemed to be very satisfied with such an outcome. The arrogance in his expression was even more obvious. Something happened to the consul in your station. All of you have an unshirkable responsibility. Now I'll give you a chance. As long as you hand over the culprit of this matter, your mistakes can be forgotten. However, if you don't tell us once we find out, the outcome will be completely different. The pressure emitted by the consul suppressed everyone, and everyone's faces turned pale. However, they had already discussed what to do before, and no one had any thoughts of changing their minds. As a matter of fact, this matter had nothing to do with Di Beichen. Even if they came forward now and investigated the matter thoroughly, the consul would not kill them indiscriminately. In this way, he had angered the two of them, and there would be countless troubles in the future. Seeing that no one stood out to speak, the man was a little surprised. Usually when something like this happened, as long as they asked, these stewards would jump out one after another to show off. They were well aware of the schemes of the managers of these mines. However, the performance before them had indeed exceeded their expectations. You. The man pointed at a random person. Tell me what you know. The steward who was pointed at was stunned at first, then without any scruples, he told the truth as he knew the truth. After the man told the whole story, the three consul could not help but look at each other. They knew that Huang Tiangui had always been unreliable, greedy and lecherous. Fortunately, he had some skills and was not someone who did not have any eyesight. Otherwise, he would not have been able to get to the position of consul. End of chapter. Chapter 73-37. Before they came they had heard some rumors but none of them took it to heart. At least, they believed that with Huang Tinggui's status, he wouldn't do something so embarrassing. However, when they heard the whole story from the steward's mouth and the process of the incident was described very clearly, their faces did not look too good. Such a way of dying was simply too shameful. It was one thing for Huang Tiangui to embarrass himself, but he had to use such a method to embarrass all of them. Are you serious? The man stared at the steward in front of him. His sharp gaze was filled with endless pressure. It was as if the man dared to lie, his life would immediately be forfeited. The steward looked nervous and shook his head repeatedly. Consul, I'm not lying. After the man saw that this person's gaze didn't seem to be lying, he moved his gaze away from him. The latter also quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Is there anyone else who wants to add to this? Silence. The group of managers all fell silent. This was the truth and no one needed to add anything. Who were the two people accompanying Consul Huang that day? Come out. The man said sternly. Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang stood up together. When the man saw the two of them step out, a trace of coldness flashed in his eyes. Consul Huang was drunk and caused trouble, but the two of you didn't stop him. I think you did it on purpose. Without any warning, the man's palm shot towards Di Baichen. Tang Yuan, stop. The man in the middle who had been silent all this while suddenly attacked and blocked the man's attack. Tang Yuan looked at him with some confusion. This matter is inseparable from the two of them. What's wrong with you? You have heard the whole story clearly. If this is the truth, then this matter has nothing to do with the two of them. I know that you and Huang Tiangui were friends, but he's already dead. You don't have to implicate others. These two people didn't do anything wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the man in the middle. She thought that the three of them were the same kind of people. She didn't expect one of them to be so reasonable. However, this was also good, lest things develop in a worse direction. We will investigate this matter thoroughly. If everything is really like this, then so be it. However, if I find out that someone is trying to deceive us, then the consequences will not be so simple. Tang Yuan's expression was ice cold. His gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and Li Chia. It was obvious that his hatred had yet to dissipate. That day the three of them stayed in Huang Tiangui's tent. As the consul of this area, Huang Tiangui naturally had a place to live, and the place he lived in was better than the others. However, he didn't come here often, and almost every time he came out to have fun, so the number of times he stayed here was also very few. On this day the entire mine was exceptionally quiet. Even the sounds of beating and scolding the miners were restrained, making it seem exceptionally peaceful. Zhou Su was also worried that something would happen in the middle of the journey, so they couldn't relax at all. In the end they simply stayed with Di Baichen. No matter what happened next, they would be able to deal with it immediately. Don't worry too much. This matter has nothing to do with us. Even if they investigate, the result will be the same. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Zhou Su and said, Who said I was worried? Zhou Su said. Chapter 73-38. Looking at Zhou Su's stubborn appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head and was too lazy to expose him. On the other hand, Lei Jun asked, When did you start to like eating tea? Zhou Su stared blankly. When he looked, the water in the teacup had already been finished. Wasn't the thing in his mouth the tea leaves? I don't think that Tang Yuan is a good person. He doesn't distinguish between right and wrong at all. Fortunately there is another consul who looks good. We won't be in danger, Lei Jun said. Haven't we already thought about all of this a long time ago? Then don't think about it. It's fine. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. She was indeed not worried, the only thing she was worried about was the returning Qin Tower. The bystanders had concluded that the background of the Imperial returning tower could not be underestimated. But in fact they knew very well that there was no power behind the Imperial returning tower. If these three fellows wanted to find trouble with the Imperial returning tower, then it would be troublesome. However, she felt that the three of them were not reckless people and would not do such a thing. In another tent. Tang Yuan, although you and Huang Tiangui are friends, you don't have to work so hard for him, right? The woman was a little puzzled. Haven't you always wanted to recommend your brother to be a consul? Now that Huang Tiangui is dead and there's an empty consul position, you can give it a try. Tang Yuan smiled faintly. It is indeed an opportunity. Zhong Lei glanced at Tang Yuan. Shuaiqin, this kid already has a plan in his heart. It's hard for you to not see through it. Shuaiqin was slightly taken aback. After Zhong Lei's reminder, she completely understood. Come to think of it, Tang Yuan's previous actions were not because he was indignant about Huang Tinggui's death. He was just trying to show off in front of everyone. Once his brother became the new consul, no one would be able to pin the blame on him. It was indeed a good tactic to take advantage of the situation and pretend to be innocent. That's true, but usually when the consul dies, the next consul will be chosen from the mine because that's the best way to know the situation in the mine. If they choose one person, I'm afraid this matter will not be easy to handle. If Huang Tiangue doesn't die, isn't there still a spot? Don't tell me that we can't get that spot? Tang Yuan waved his hand. That quota has long been targeted by others. I don't have that guy's methods. Hearing this, Zhong Lei and Shui Qin seemed to have understood who the other party was, so they did not continue speaking. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen frowned when they heard the news from Xiao He and Xiao Bai. I knew that Tang Yuan was up to no good. It turns out that he was eyeing the position of consul here, Xiao He said. I'm afraid things are going to be a little troublesome now. He wants to shove his younger brother in. It will be very difficult for us to compete with him. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. They didn't know anyone else in this spirit-devouring mine organization, nor did they have any background. It was undoubtedly very difficult to snatch a spot from them. How about, we kill Tang Yuan and give his position to his younger brother? The corners of Di Beichen's lips curled up slightly. There was a hint of evil on his handsome face. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. She looked at Di Beichen with some surprise. Then she chuckled and said, It's not impossible. Let's wait and see tomorrow. Fortunately, Zhou Su and Xiao He were not here. Otherwise, if they heard Di Beichen's idea, they would probably think that he was crazy. Chapter 73-39. The next day, everyone gathered together again. Tang Yuan and the other two had already understood the whole matter after last night. The whole thing had spread like wildfire in the city. There was almost no need for them to inquire, the news had already reached their ears. Such a way of dying was really too shameful. Even if the three of them did not have a good relationship with Huang Tiangue, even as colleagues they felt shameful. As for going to Guichen Tower? They did not even think about this idea. Not to mention that Guichen Tower's background was very mysterious. Even if they went to look for this kind of thing, they would be the ones in the wrong. Even if this kind of thing was reported, everyone would only feel that death could not wipe out the crime. They did not need to investigate at all. We have already investigated the whole matter clearly. Consul Huang's death is his own matter, it has nothing to do with everyone. Tang Yuan still stood up and took the lead to speak. After we report it, this matter will not have any impact on everyone, so everyone can rest assured. As soon as these words came out, everyone present breathed a sigh of relief. In addition, since Consul Huang has already fallen, then the position of consul must be filled by someone. When the time comes, there will be a new consul. Everyone just needs to do their job well. Zhou Su and the others all frowned. Lei Jun looked at Zhang Sun on the side. Zhang Sun's face was bitter. How could he be so unlucky? Previously, because he coveted Ji Chuan's position, he had already lost face in front of everyone. He did not expect that because of this matter he would be blackmailed, and now he was threatened by Lei Jun. Standing up to speak did not necessarily mean that he would die, but if he did not stand up now when the three consul left, he would really lose his life. Thinking of this, Zhang Sun could only bite the bullet and say, Consul, according to past practice, if a consul falls, then the next consul should be promoted from among us, right? Tang Yuan did not expect that someone would raise doubts at this time. His cold gaze immediately fell on Zhang Sun's head. However, in front of so many people he could not directly crush this kid to death. According to past practice it is indeed so. However, Consul Huang died suddenly, and we are not clear about the situation in your mind. This promotion is naturally very blind. Instead of this, it is better to directly appoint a new consul. When Consul Huang was alive, he had always been very optimistic about Manager Ji, and all of us are very much in favor of Manager Ji taking over the position of consul. Zhang Sun said. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Zhang Sun, and then at Lei Jun. Steward Ji? Tang Yuan was slightly taken aback. Who is it? Ji? When Tang Yuan saw that the man in front of him was the man who stood out yesterday, a hint of mockery appeared in his eyes. You? When Huang Tiangue died, Di Beichen was beside him. Now that Huang Tiangue was dead, Di Beichen wanted to replace him. Who knew if this was a trap from the beginning? Consul, you just said that the matter has been investigated clearly, and it has nothing to do with us. Di Beichen reminded him. Chapter 73-40. We've settled everything in the crossing immortal domain. That's why we came back. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the destruction around her and understood what had happened. A trace of guilt appeared on her delicate and elegant face. We've encountered something like this before. We rushed back as soon as we realized that something was wrong. I didn't expect that we would still be one step too late and cause such a loss. Bai Ziyuan waved his hand. These losses are nothing. Fortunately, young Master Mo and the others are here. Otherwise, I'm afraid I would have died today. Bailey Hongzhuang also sighed. This is also because we were lucky. If something really happened, we, Di Baichen and the others also had complicated expressions. Before they came, they had been worried that something like this would happen. On the way here, they still had a trace of hope. They only thought that it was just a sentence from the Qing devil. Perhaps they didn't think of it after they were injured. They didn't expect that this trace of hope would be meaningless. In the end, it still happened. But this was already a blessing in disguise. Miss Bailey, you don't have to take this to heart. You've helped us a lot before. This time it was really unexpected. It wasn't what you expected. Bai Qingli comforted. Her gentle face did not have the slightest bit of resentment. It was as if she really did not have any complaints about this. Ling Er looked at the casualties and said, at least this is much better than the situation in the small town. What's going on? Why is the Qing devil so crazy? Mo Yunjue asked. We found Xiao Sou in the crossing immortal domain and planned to snatch her identity token. We didn't expect to encounter the Qing devil in the process. The Qing devil was seriously injured by us, but we were also seriously injured. Xiao Sou was taken away by his people. Mo Yunjue immediately understood. So that's how it is. Then Xiao Sei Wu's luck is really good. She can actually escape in this situation. Isn't it? It's really depressing. Bai Lian Che looked helpless. Xiao Sou had been a nuisance for too long. In fact, this person would not be able to affect them too much. However, the most troublesome thing was that the key was still in her hands. If they did not retrieve the key, Baichen would not be able to open the inheritance. Now that Xiao Sou had the support of Qing Devil, it was more difficult to deal with him. This is? Bailey Hongzhuang also noticed the man beside Mo Yunjue. From the way he stood, he should not be from the city lord's mansion. Instead, he was closer to Yunju. This is a new friend we made recently. His name is Yi Sun. Zhongli Mu smiled as he introduced. We met him when we were training and he helped us out. It just so happened that he was cultivating alone, so we got together. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood. She immediately showed a kind smile. Hello, I'm Bailey Hongzhuang. I've heard about you a long time ago. Seeing you is better than hearing about you 100 times. You're really a first-class beauty. Lord Yi, you flatter me. Let's not stand here. How about we go to the courtyard and sit down to talk? Bai Ziyuan asked. Okay. Everyone nodded. They had to come up with a solution for the current situation. Otherwise, they would not be able to leave with peace of mind. Chapter 73-41. Only then did Tang Yuan notice that all the stewards present were looking at him with eyes full of hatred. The others thought about it very clearly. The election had always been a tradition. They didn't know what was wrong with Zhang Sun to fight so hard for Jichuan. However, there was nothing wrong with that. Tang Yuan wanted to kill Zhang Sun without hesitation. If Zhang Sun became their consul in the future, their future would be even more difficult. This scene did not stop Tang Yuan from killing Zhang Sun. Instead, it made him even angrier. The hand that was strangling Zhang Sun's throat tightened continuously, and the ruthlessness in his eyes was unmistakable. When Zhang Sun realized that Tang Yuan was really going to kill him, he shouted desperately, "Save me!" Bang! Di Baichen threw a punch at Tang Yuan. No one would have thought that Di Baichen would have the guts to attack Tang Yuan, and no one would have thought that Di Baichen would attack Tang Yuan for Zhang Sun. No one understood why Zhang Sun would try so hard to defend Di Baichen today. It had only been a short time. When did Zhang Sun and Di Baichen become so close? You're courting death. Tang Yuan's original target wasn't Zhang Sun. He just couldn't find a reason to make a move on Di Baichen. Now that Di Baichen had taken the initiative to attack him, it was only right to kill him. Tang Yuan casually threw Zhang Sun out. Seeing this, Lei Jun and the others caught Zhang Sun one after another. Only then did Zhang Sun not fall directly to the ground. Cough, cough, cough. Zhang Sun clutched his neck and kept coughing. His face was still red. If not for Di Baichen's help, he would have died. He couldn't help but look at Di Baichen, who was fighting with Tang Yuan. He had a complicated feeling in his heart. He never thought that Di Baichen would actually save him. Bang! After exchanging blows with Di Baichen, Tang Yuan realized that this brat was not weak at all. In fact, he did not even think that he was stronger than his opponent. How was this possible? A look of astonishment surfaced in Tang Yuan's eyes. The other party was merely a steward, but he actually had such powerful strength. Before they came, they had also checked the records of the mine's manager. There was no record of this man's strength at all. No wonder so many stewards supported him. With such strength, he was indeed qualified to become a consul. Shui Qin and Zhong Lei, who were at the side, were also somewhat surprised. Previously, they also did not discover Di Beichen's strength. This brat had hidden it quite deeply. If Tang Yuan had not intended to kill Zhang Sun, Di Beichen would not have revealed his strength. However, with the current situation, they had no intention of making a move. The one who wanted this position was Tang Yuan, and it had nothing to do with them. There was no need for them to get involved. Di Beichen did not hold back after making his move. Since the situation had developed to this point, killing Tang Yuan was imperative. Bailey Hongzhuang had been standing to the side. Seeing that Shui Qin had no intention of making a move, she also bided her time. When did Ji Chuan become so strong? This consul Tang's strength doesn't seem to be as strong as Ji Chuan. How can he be our consul? This kind of strength can't convince the masses. Although everyone had seen Di Beichen defeat Yuan Gang was only a relatively powerful steward. He was completely different from the consul. Now that they saw Di Beichen actually suppressing Tang Yuan, they realized that Di Beichen was actually stronger than they thought. Chapter 73-42. Zhou Su and Lei Jun did not know what to do at the moment. This matter was completely different from what they had expected. It was developing in the opposite direction. Not only did they fail to settle the matter peacefully, they even made the situation worse. Now that Di Beichen was going against the consul, they couldn't even imagine the consequences. Being kicked out would be a light punishment. Boom. Di Beichen ruthlessly punched Tang Yuan's chest. Everyone only heard the crisp sound of bones breaking. Immediately after, they discovered that Tang Yuan's sternum had caved in under this punch. Damn, that's awesome. Zhou Su couldn't understand the consequences of this matter, so he simply didn't think about it. At this moment, seeing Di Beichen fight so happily, he also felt as if he had vented his anger. Among the three consuls, Tang Yuan was the most annoying. The arrogance and contempt in his words filled their hearts with resentment. Ji Chuan, you can do it? Zhang Sun saw that he couldn't help much, so he could only cheer him on. With this shout, Zhang Sun noticed that everyone was looking at him with strange expressions. Just as he was feeling a little awkward, suddenly, Ji Chuan, do your best. Come on. Kill him. The group of stewards shouted one after another. They couldn't stand it any longer. Although the consul status was indeed higher than theirs, and they usually didn't have the guts to do so, today's unexpected development made them feel unprecedentedly carefree. What did it feel like to have over 100 managers cheering together? Di Beichen's lips slowly curved into a faint smile. He had never felt a sense of belonging to the mine because everything here had nothing to do with him. The reason he saved Zhang Sun was undoubtedly because he knew that Zhang Sun was coming for him, so there was really no need to implicate innocent people. However, this situation still made him feel a little strange. On the contrary, Tang Yuan was so angry that he was about to spit out a mouthful of blood. He was a consul, but now he was being suppressed by a steward. It was one thing for Zhong Lei and Wang Rong not to help, but the managers of the mine were actually cheering for Di Beichen? It was as if he had done something unforgivable. These traitors. Once he killed Di Beichen, they would all be punished. Bang bang bang. Di Beichen did not use the power of darkness. Instead, he used the power of light. A dazzling light mixed with extreme power enveloped Tang Yuan like a sudden clap of thunder. Boom. An earth-shattering sound rang out and energy ripples spread out in the air. The figure wrapped in dazzling white light had already smashed into the ground, creating an astonishingly deep pit. Wow, awesome. Zhou Su was amazed. With Di Beichen's ability, he should have become a consul long ago. Ji Chuan is mighty. Everyone shouted one after another, completely ignoring Tang Yuan, whose fate was unknown in the deep pit. Zhong Lei and Shui Qin looked at each other. Such a situation was undoubtedly beyond their expectations. With this kid's reputation here, it would be difficult for others to become a consul here, Zhong Lei said slowly. Shui Qin nodded slightly. According to common sense, he should indeed become the new consul. Tang Yuan's actions are not a big deal in private. If things get out of hand, Tang Yuan will also be Li Kuei's subordinate. At this time, the two of them remembered that Tang Yuan was still in the deep pit. In any case, they were in the same profession, so they could not completely ignore him. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at this scene and understood that although the three of them came together, they did not have deep feelings for each other. Otherwise they would not have stood still when they saw Tang Yuan seriously injured. Chapter 73-43. When Zhong Lei and the other man found Tang Yuan from the deep pit, their faces were filled with shock. Tang Yuan was dead. He was beaten to death by a steward right in front of them. When Zhou Su and the others saw that Di Beichen had actually beaten him to death, they couldn't help but be speechless. Fierce, this was really too fierce. Earlier you said that Consul Huang's death had nothing to do with you, but in the blink of an eye, you killed the consul in front of the other two. Di Beichen stood there calmly without the slightest hint of fear. You killed the consul? Zhong Lei looked at Di Beichen with a solemn expression. He didn't expect things to get so out of hand. Now that Zhong Lei was dead, the matter this time would be troublesome. He wanted to kill me first, Di Beichen replied. I don't think he wants to kill you. Zhong Lei narrowed his eyes as a cold light surged within them. He's the consul, so he can kill people in our mine as he pleases? Di Beichen asked back. If he doesn't die, Zhang Sun will die, I will die, and even Gu Jian and the managers who are on good terms with me will die. I don't know which mine Consul Tang is in charge of, but he is not the consul of our mine and has no right to kill any of us. When Zhang Sun and the others heard this, they could not help but feel agitated. Di Beichen was right. As long as Tang Yuan did not die, they would all die. Now that Di Beichen had admitted to all this, it was tantamount to taking all the responsibility on himself. They couldn't help but feel guilty. Zhong Lei frowned slightly. He knew that Di Beichen was telling the truth. Even he couldn't help but admire him for his actions. No wonder Di Beichen had such a reputation. A person like him was born to be a leader. However, Tang Yuan had died in his hands. This matter could not be settled just like that. That may be the case, but you've gone too far in handling this matter. Everyone couldn't help but laugh coldly when they heard this. Had he gone overboard? All of you have been watching the show from the side without any intention of stopping them. Now you are saying that they are going overboard. Isn't that a little too funny? In short, I have to bring you back to give an explanation for what happened, Zhong Lei said. How can that do? Zhang Sun hurriedly said. Why not? Zhong Lei's expression was indifferent. You guys are the ones who created this mess. It's already good enough that I didn't kill you on the spot. After I bring you back, you may not necessarily lose your life. Shui Qin didn't say anything. She knew in her heart that Zhong Lei was undoubtedly admiring Di Beichen. If that wasn't the case, Zhong Lei wouldn't have wasted his breath. I was also involved in the incident that night. If you want an explanation, I'll go with you, Bailey Hongzhuang said. Do you think that's a place where anyone can go? Ji Chuan and I have always been in charge together. I've been involved in the entire matter. Since we're going to investigate, we naturally have to investigate thoroughly. If we have to do the same thing, then. As soon as he finished speaking, the Yuan energy in Bailey Hongzhuang's body surged. After sensing the tyrannical aura, Zhong Lei and Shui Qin's expressions changed. Previously they had focused all their attention on Di Beichen. They hadn't noticed that this kid had reached such a cultivation level. Shui Qin looked at Zhong Lei. This guy wasn't someone to be trifled with. Bring them back together, Zhong Lei said. He had originally thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's position was very interesting. It was as if she was guarding against them. Chapter 73-44. At that time he didn't put Bailey Hongzhuang in his eyes at all. She was just a steward. It was impossible for her to guard against the two of them. However, it wasn't until this moment that he realized that her actions were not superfluous, but she really had the strength. Previously he didn't pay attention to Di Beichen, but now he found that their ability to hide their strength was not weak. If Tang Yuan hadn't forced them to take action, they would have continued to hide. In any case, these two boys were a little strange. It would be good to take them back to understand. If they really had other intentions by staying here, it would be better to deal with them as soon as possible. Di Beichen didn't stop Bailey Hongzhuang. He understood that she did so because she was worried about his safety. Moreover, with Hongzhuang's strength, she would never be a burden. Shui Qin nodded slightly and didn't object. Things had developed to this point. Instead of letting them go back to explain themselves, it was better to take them back and let them explain. Zhou Su and the others couldn't help but feel anxious. If they stayed here, it might be possible to escape, but once they were taken back, it was very likely that they wouldn't even be able to keep their lives. Ji Chuan, I think you should take the opportunity to run, Zhou Su said anxiously. After getting along with each other for so long, they were brothers. He really couldn't watch them die. Di Beichen smiled faintly without the slightest fear between his brows. Don't worry, the situation may not be as bad as you think. If it really comes to that point, we will run. Seeing Di Beichen's indifference, Zhou Su was even more anxious. What did this guy think the devouring or pavilion was? It was the most heavily guarded place in the entire Duxian domain. As far as he knew, the devouring or pavilion had a close relationship with the immortal domain. Even if they weren't weak, it was impossible for them to come out after going to the devouring or pavilion. Zhong Lei glanced at Zhou Su indifferently. Zhou Su suddenly felt alarmed and didn't dare to continue transmitting his voice. He didn't know how much stronger this guy was than him. Would he be able to hear what he said? Now that things had come to this point, Zhong Lei and the other man had no intention of staying here for long. They immediately left the mine with Di Beichen and the other man. As for Shui Qin, she brought Tang Yuan's corpse back. The relationship between Gu Jian and Ji Chuan is really deep. Going with Ji Chuan at a time like this, isn't that just courting death? Although everyone felt that it was a pity, Gu Jian's actions had exceeded all of their expectations. Even though they also hoped that Di Beichen would be able to get through this safely, they didn't dare to risk their lives to follow him. Bailey Hongzhuang followed Zhong Lei on his flying magic tool. The flying magic tool of the crossing immortal domain was also very fast. However, the two of them were being watched, so it was impossible to judge their speed. The two of you are quite calm. Zhong Lei looked at the two people who looked normal and didn't have the slightest bit of worry. A trace of interest appeared in his eyes. If it were an ordinary person, they would be restless if they were suddenly taken away and faced with the possibility of being killed. However, the two of them acted as if nothing had happened. If he hadn't been watching the two of them, they would have been focusing on studying the flying magic tool. We didn't do anything wrong. Naturally, there's no need to worry. Di Beichen responded, if you don't do anything wrong, you don't have to be afraid of ghosts knocking on your door. You're really careless. Zhong Lei shook his head. Do you know the consequences of killing the consul? Chapter 73:45. Replace me, Di Beichen said. As soon as these words came out, not only Zhong Lei, but even Shui Qin had a look of disbelief. Who gave this guy such courage? Killing the consul, if it was any other place, he would have directly lost his life. But this guy not only didn't think that he would be punished, he even wanted to replace the consul. How could there be such a good thing in the world? Your ability to comfort yourself is quite good. Shui Qin's lips twitched slightly, thinking that she should also learn from this guy. Perhaps if she comforted herself too much, she would be able to remain calm even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of her. Thank you. Shui Qin, where the hell did this weirdo come from? He was so confident and didn't care about what others said at all. You have such a great reputation in the mine, is this your temperament? Tell the truth and do your best. Di Beichen raised his eyebrows. Isn't this taught by the devouring or pavilion? Shui Qin was choked by Di Beichen's words. The devouring or pavilion did say so, but how many people really did it? When ordinary people said this, she felt that it was very hypocritical, but when this kid said it, she felt that it was somewhat true. Could it really be like this? After all, this kid was being too honest in front of them. Zhong Lei watched Shui Qin being fooled by Di Beichen with just a few words and felt a little helpless. He finally understood that this kid must have his own trump card, otherwise he wouldn't be so confident. In fact, as long as Di Beichen had a brain, he could indeed shirk the responsibility of the whole matter. However, the deputy pavilion master was not as easy to fool as Shui Qin. Whether or not he could fool the deputy pavilion master would depend on Di Beichen himself. Bailey Hongzhuang sat quietly on the side, watching the scene in front of her, and found it quite funny. The consul of the devouring or pavilion was quite simple. Among the two people in front of her, Shui Qin was undoubtedly the least complicated. Otherwise, she wouldn't have a confused look at this moment. As for Zhong Lei, this person should be a smart person. He saw through it but did not expose it. At the very least, he did not have any enmity towards them. With Shui Qin's personality, it was impossible for her to achieve her current status in the chaotic immortal realm. The schemes in the chaotic immortal realm could easily kill her at any time. Maybe it was because Du Celestial Domain was closed, so the competition here was not as good as outside. 2 days later, the flying magic tool finally landed. After Bailey Hongzhuang and Li Wuyo got off the flying magic tool, they immediately noticed the magnificent building in front of them. The black building was majestic and magnificent, exuding an astonishing aura. At a glance, it was like a mountain with an imposing aura. The words devouring or pavilion were written on the plaque in the middle of the room. This building was much more magnificent than anything they had seen before. The devouring or pavilion was indeed the #1 organization in the Crossing Immortal region. At this moment, there were some pedestrians coming and going in the devouring or pavilion. When these people saw Zhonglei and Li Wuyo, they nodded to greet them. Then they looked at Di Baichen and Li Wuyo. Although they were a little confused, no one asked too much. Although there were many pedestrians compared to the terrifying size of the building, it was still sparse and empty. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the building and was shocked to find that this building was made of devouring spirit stone. Thinking about the difficulty of mining on a daily basis, compared with the amazing size of the building, she sighed. It was really rich and imposing. Chapter 7346. Normally, the cultivators in Crossing Immortal Domain desired the devouring spirit stone. However, it wasn't easy to obtain it. The Crossing Celestial Realm was slightly easier than the Chaotic Celestial Realm. If they saw the devouring or pavilion in front of them, would they have the intention to move the door back to where they came from? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Even if it was just a door, it would be enough for a cultivator to increase their mental strength by quite a bit. Back then, when he had excavated a mine, he had thought that his wallet was already pretty good. However, compared to this, it was really a drop in the bucket. What? Are you thinking of moving these things away? Zhonglei noticed Bailey Hongzhuang and Mo Wuji's gazes and guessed their thoughts. Although it's rare to meet an elementary immortal stage cultivator in Crossing Immortal Domain, it's different in devouring or pavilion. With the strength of the two of you, I'm afraid you'll lose your lives before you can even put the things in. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. After she arrived, she noticed that there were a few auras locked onto her. Obviously, there were experts overseeing this place. Shui Qin smiled faintly. When they first came here, they couldn't help but have such thoughts in their hearts. However, after understanding how powerful this place was, they realized how naive this idea was. It would never work. Consul Zhong, Consul Shui, you are here. After entering the hall, a man came up to him. Have you investigated the matter? The matter has been investigated, but it's a little complicated. I think I need to explain it to the Vice Pavilion Master. Hearing this, the man's gaze swept over Di Baichen and his companion, and he seemed to have realized that something was amiss. The Vice Pavilion Lord hasn't returned yet. I'm afraid we'll have to wait for a while. Understood, Zhonglei said. Not long after, Zhonglei said a few words to Shui Qin, and Shui Qin took Di Baichen and left first. Inside the house, Xiao He and Xiao Bai could not help but jump onto the table. Master, are you really not worried? It would be a lie to say that I'm not worried, but in this situation we might still have a chance. Bailey Hongzhuang stroked Xiao He's head. Her furry head felt really good. If it doesn't work, we'll run, Bailey Hongzhuang said as she looked at Di Baichen. What do you think about our chances of winning? Huang Qinggui's matter is already very clear, and it has nothing to do with us. As for Tang Yuan, he wanted to slaughter innocent stewards. We couldn't stand it anymore, and that's why we intervened. However, the final result still depends on luck. Try your luck? Xiao Bai asked in confusion. Let's see how close this Vice Pavilion Master is to Tang Yuan. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. If their relationship is average or not good, our chances of success will be very high. But if their relationship is very good, Xiao He swallowed her saliva. It was such a big deal, yet her master wanted to try her luck. It was already 3 days later when Bailey Hongzhuang was called in for questioning. Zhonglei and Xiao He did not appear. Instead, an unfamiliar person brought them to see the Vice Pavilion Master. Standing in the large black hall, Bailey Hongzhuang only felt that her mental strength was very active. The spirit-devouring stones all around were emitting energy. Even if one did not focus on cultivating here, their mental strength would still increase unconsciously. This was really a good place. If there were enough spirit-devouring stones, there was no better place for cultivators to cultivate in this environment. Mental strength did not seem to be very strong, but it was actually very useful in many areas. Chapter 7347. Have you seen enough? A cold and dignified voice suddenly sounded from behind. The two of them turned around and noticed a black figure. The man was about 50 years old. Although his face looked slightly weathered, his shrewd gaze and aura did not match his age at all. Even if it was just a face-to-face meeting, the two understood that the other party was very strong. Greetings, Deputy Pavilion Master. The two bowed. The deputy pavilion master just looked at the two indifferently and did not say anything. However, just this gaze alone made the two of them feel a little pressured. This person's strength was definitely above the elementary celestial stage. The devouring or pavilion had an inseparable relationship with the immortal region. The person in charge here was naturally not simple. If he did not have enough strength, he would not be able to sit in this position. I've heard the whole story. You can say it again, the deputy pavilion master said indifferently. Di Baichen was not vague. With Zhong Lei's character, he would definitely tell the whole story truthfully. However, he could not guarantee that the other party would not fight for justice for Tang Yuan's death. If he helped Tang Yuan in the process of telling the story and they did not explain, it would be quite troublesome. Therefore, he recounted the entire incident to him. It was not until after that the two looked at the deputy pavilion master. I heard that your reputation in the devouring or pavilion is quite high. Everyone hopes that you will be the next consul? The faint voice was like an ordinary question, but it made people feel pressured for no reason. This question was even more thought-provoking. It's just that we get along well, so everyone thinks highly of me? I'm afraid it's not as simple as that. The deputy pavilion master chuckled. If they just thought highly of him, those stewards would not have stood up for him in such an environment. Everyone was selfish. Di Baichen did not explain. The other party was a smart person and must have already made a judgment in his heart. There was no point in explaining. Deputy Pavilion Master, Consul Huang's death has nothing to do with us. As for Consul Tang, his death is indeed related to me. However, I think that even the consul can't kill a steward at will. If he wants to kill me because of this, I have nothing to say. According to what you said, if I really kill you, doesn't that mean that the entire devouring or pavilion is inhumane? I didn't say that. But that's exactly what you mean. The deputy pavilion master coldly snorted. His sharp eyes swept across the faces of the two men before he suddenly said, "Do you think that no one will be able to see through your disguises after you have consumed the disguise pill?" As soon as these words came out, Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's expressions changed. They had forgotten that it was difficult for others to see through the disguise pill, but with the vice pavilion master's strength, it would not be a problem for him to see through it. Since he had seen through it, it meant that he knew that they were not the real stewards. Naturally, the crisis had come. What's your purpose for pretending to be mine managers? The deputy pavilion master's aura suddenly burst out and locked onto the two of them. His threatening and forceful words forced them to face it. Bailey Hongzhuang looked around. She had been looking around to find a way out. At this moment, the voice of the vice pavilion master sounded again. Don't think about running. You can't run away here. Answer my questions honestly and you may have a chance to live. Di Baichen calmed down and stared at the deputy pavilion master. I think you should have already found out our identities. Chapter 73-48. At this moment, Di Baichen understood everything. The vice pavilion master had already returned a few days ago. The reason why he hadn't met with them was probably because he had already understood their situation in the past 3 days. Since that was the case, if the other party wanted to kill them, there was no need for them to waste their breath. However, the fact that he kept them alive at such a time meant that he had other motives. The vice pavilion master looked at Di Baichen with admiration. Not bad. If that's the case, ask whatever you want. You've got guts. What makes you think that I'll ask you something? If he didn't have something to ask, the vice pavilion master wouldn't be in the mood to talk to us. While Di Baichen was talking with the vice pavilion master, Bailey Hongzhuang was constantly looking for a way to leave. Since this guy had already seen through them, their chances of survival were very small. Therefore, he had to think of a way to leave this place. Although the other party was strong and they were no match for him, it was not as if they had no chance of escaping. No matter how strict the security here was, Bailey Hongzhuang was still confident that she could take the risk. I like to talk to smart people. The vice pavilion master sat on the chair casually. I heard that you had a fight with Qing Devil? Hearing that, both Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen were surprised. Many people had noticed the fight between them and Qing Devil. However, at that time he did not use his current appearance. It was indeed not easy for him to find out about this. Most importantly, why was he interested in Qing Devil? You know Qing Devil? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't have asked if they didn't know each other. Are you friends with Qing Devil? If that was really the case, then they were simply delivering themselves to his doorstep. Who would be friends with a guy like that? The deputy pavilion leader snorted coldly, as if he was extremely disdainful of Qing Devil. Although you're not as powerful as Qing Devil, It's not bad that you managed to seriously injure him. Bailey Hongzhuang breathed a sigh of relief. It was good that the deputy pavilion master was not friends with the Qing devil. Otherwise, if she fell into the hands of the deputy pavilion master, it would be equivalent to falling into the hands of the Qing devil. She would not be reconciled even if she died. First, tell me why you're in the mine. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. After thinking about it, they decided to tell the truth. This guy was obviously not simple. Even if they didn't tell him, it was only a matter of time before he found out. Since that was the case, it was better to be frank and find out what this fellow's objective was. So you want your family to have a place to go after they ascend? The vice pavilion master chuckled. As cultivators, you two really have a lot to think about. There was a faint hint of sarcasm in his words. Generally, when a cultivator cultivated to this level, most of them only cared about themselves. People like them were indeed rare. Promise me one thing and I'll let you be the consul. What do you think? Hearing this, the two's eyes lit up at first, but then they became vigilant. The vice pavilion leader's promise was definitely not easy to fulfill. If it was something more difficult than reaching the sky, they would undoubtedly be happy for nothing. What do you want us to do, deputy pavilion leader? If we can do it, we won't refuse. Kill Qing Devil's master. Qing Devil's master? Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. She didn't know that Qing Devil had a master. That old guy has been hiding for many years. But since you have a grudge against Qing Devil, you'll find his master sooner or later. Chapter 73-49. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the deputy pavilion master. She did not expect that her trip here would involve such a grudge. However, they had a deep grudge against Qing Devil. Though they had never met his master, they were sure to be his enemies as long as they met him. Vice Pavilion Master, since you've already inquired about us, you must already know our strength. Since he is the master of Qing Devil, he must be more powerful than us. It won't be easy for us to kill him. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. With their current strength, it was not easy to kill the Qing Devil, let alone her master. Of course I know that. The Vice Pavilion Master was not surprised at all. I think highly of both of your talents. As long as you have time, it shouldn't be a problem. The two of them didn't know whether they should thank the Vice Pavilion Master for having such a good opinion of them, but the doubt in their hearts grew even stronger. Why don't you do it yourself? Di Beichen asked. The Deputy Pavilion Master was obviously stronger than them. It would take them a lot of time to resolve this grudge, so they might as well do it themselves. It couldn't be that the Vice Pavilion Master was no match for the other party, so the two of them had to go, right? Of course I have my reasons. The Deputy Pavilion Master's voice turned colder. Just say it. Do you agree or not? I agree. I agree. The two of them agreed without hesitation. Right now they were meat on the chopping block. If they didn't agree, it would be very difficult for them to leave today. Anyway, they agreed first. The other party also knew that they couldn't kill Qing Devil's master in a short time. As for the rest, they would have to leave this place first. Seeing their reactions, the Deputy Pavilion Master showed a satisfied expression. This is your waste tag. The Vice Pavilion Master casually threw 2 waste tokens into the hands of the 2 men. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the bronze waste tag in her hand, which had a completely different texture. She immediately noticed the 2 words written on it, Consul. 2 consular badges? Huang Tiangue, that idiot, deserved to die. As for Tang Yuan, he has already died in your hands. If you don't replace him, do you think I'll have to go through the trouble of finding someone else? The Deputy Pavilion Master said matter-of-factly. Listening to this, Bailey Hongzhuang was also speechless. In order to fight for the position of consul, Tang Yuan had even lost his life. The Vice Pavilion Master had casually given the position of consul to them, as if finding another consul was a very troublesome matter. If Tang Yuan knew about this scene, he would probably come back to life from anger. I wonder where Tang Yuan's territory is. These 2 places are very close to each other. Tang Yuan had only switched to this area not long ago. Otherwise, you would have already met him. Recently, I happen to have plans to manage these 2 territories together. Since you 2 are husband and wife, I'll leave it to you. However, don't rely on this to not be able to complete the mission every season. If you can't complete the mission, you will also be punished, the Deputy Pavilion Master said. Before Bailey Hongzhuang could ask, the Deputy Pavilion Master had already answered all the doubts in their hearts. Suddenly, there was nothing more to say. That's all. You can scram now. The Deputy Pavilion Master waved his hand. He obviously didn't want to waste his breath on them. Therefore, the two men could only leave the room with some doubts. This guy seemed to hate trouble. If they continued to ask, once this guy became impatient, they would be in trouble. Chapter 7350. Fortunately, they were now the consuls of the devouring or pavilion. Presumably, after leaving this room, they would be able to ask the questions they wanted to know. In the hall. Zhonglei, what are you still doing here? The man walked in front of Zhonglei. Those two brats are going to die today. There's no need to come here at all. Zhonglei smiled faintly. I don't know why, but I feel that there might be a glimmer of hope. The deaths of the two consuls are inseparable from them. Consul Tang even died directly in their hands. If they could still survive like this, it would be too unbelievable. You ask me, these two guys are simply courting death. They dared to kill Consul Tang in front of you too. Aren't they courting death? They are indeed very interesting. Zhonglei nodded. It's a pity if they die like this. With the strength of these two, they are indeed not simple. However, there are many geniuses here, so it's nothing. Zhonglei did not say much. Just as the man said, in other places in the crossing immortal domain, it was rare to see an elementary immortal stage cultivator, but in the devouring or pavilion, it was not a big deal. The devouring or pavilion had a close relationship with the immortal domain. The cultivators here had always been strong. If it wasn't for the fact that Tang Yuan's strength was not strong enough, Di Beichen and Di Beichen would have already lost their lives. I think the two of them are quite interesting and worthy of appreciation. Maybe the deputy pavilion master will change his mind. How is that possible? The man shook his head. The deputy pavilion master has always been afraid of trouble. However, at this moment, a surprised voice suddenly sounded. Consul Zhong. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Zhonglei with a smile. She was thinking about who she should talk to later. She didn't expect to see Zhonglei as soon as she walked into the hall. This was undoubtedly great. The man was only halfway through his words when he was interrupted by Bailey Hongzhuang. Just as he was hesitating about who suddenly appeared, who would have thought that when he turned his head and saw the person clearly, his expression suddenly changed as if he had seen a ghost. You, how are you still alive? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Why can't we live? Zhonglei was also surprised when he saw the two of them. However, he quickly understood what was going on. In fact, the reason why he came here today was because he thought that these two people would not be so unlucky. He did not expect that he had guessed correctly. How is this possible? The man looked at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. It's impossible for them to come out alive. Then your judgment is wrong, Bailey Hongzhuang said. Zhonglei smiled faintly and patted the man's shoulder. Don't doubt me. Aren't you out in one piece? This is really strange. I've been here for a long time, and this is the first time I've seen someone survive from the hands of a vice pavilion master. Zhonglei ignored the man's doubts and turned to look at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. Let me introduce you, this is Ning Xian, the manager of the hall. This steward is different from stewards like you. The steward of the hall has much more authority than you. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood that this was the headquarters of the devouring or pavilion. The manager here was much more powerful than the manager in the mine. Greetings, Manager Ning. Ning Xian nodded slightly. Tell me, how did you survive? Chapter 7351. Looking at Ning Xian's curious face, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were a little speechless. The deputy pavilion master was such a scary person in this guy's eyes. We just told the whole process of the matter to the vice pavilion lord, and the vice pavilion lord let us out. Di Beichen replied. That's impossible. Ning Xian said without hesitation. What? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. I think the deputy pavilion master is very good, and he's very reasonable. He's not someone who can't tell right from wrong. After hearing this, Ning Xian felt that something was wrong. After thinking it through, he said, I'm not saying that the deputy pavilion master can't tell right from wrong. According to his understanding, it was not that the deputy pavilion master couldn't tell right from wrong, but he was too lazy to understand the process. Generally speaking, the deputy pavilion master wouldn't listen to the whole story at all. He would just kill all of them to save himself the trouble. Now this guy actually said that the deputy pavilion master was very reasonable after hearing everything. It would be strange if he believed it. However, other than this explanation, he really couldn't find any other explanation. Anyway, these two guys definitely had some ability. Are you going to leave now? Zhonglei said, I happen to be leaving too. I'll take you with me, but this time you have to go back to the mine by yourself. I want to ask, after becoming a consul, Can our clansmen be exempted from mining when they ascend? Di Baichen asked. Zhonglei stopped and nodded. That's right. What does this have to do with you? Ning Xen asked, are you still thinking about becoming a consul? We've already become consul. Bailey Hongzhuang waved the waist token in her hand. It's just that the deputy pavilion master didn't tell us anything else, so we don't know what to do next. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Zhonglei and Ning Xian's expressions became extremely strange. In the blink of an eye they became consul? Also, I still don't know where this place is. I'll have to trouble you two to guide me. Both of you became consul? At this moment, Zhonglei also noticed that both of them were holding a waist token in their hands. He was even more surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Consul Huang is dead and so is Consul Tang. The deputy pavilion master said that he would give these two positions to us. Ning Xen, Zhonglei, this is too strange. Ning Xen found it hard to believe. Did the two of you cast a spell on the vice pavilion master? With the vice pavilion master's strength, even if we wanted to, we wouldn't be able to do it. Ning Xen thought about it and realized that what he said was indeed very reasonable. The vice pavilion master's strength was much stronger than these two fellows. It was obviously impossible for him to play any tricks. Therefore, the vice pavilion master was the problem. He looked left and right, but did not feel that there was anything outstanding about these two that could make the vice pavilion master look at them differently. Since you have already become consuls, follow me to register. Ning Xen waved his hand and led the way to the front counter. Soon he took out 2 pieces of paper and filled it in. Ning Xen, name? Jichuan? No, Di Baichen. Ning Xen raised his eyebrows. What's going on? Zhonglei was also a bit confused. You have to change your name after becoming a consul? It was a disguise before. Now that I'm a consul, I don't have to pretend anymore. Di Baichen's heart skipped a beat and he had already restored his real appearance. Chapter 73-52. Looking at Di Baichen's sudden change in appearance, Zhonglei and the other man were dumbfounded. What's going on? Ning Xian was a little confused. I've become a consul, and even my appearance has changed? Actually, I'm not Jichuan. Li Baicheng said frankly. What do you mean? Zhonglei didn't understand. Then why did you use Jichuan's name? Where is the real Jichuan? That. Ning Xian sized up Di Baichen. After a while he said, don't tell me you killed him. Exactly. What the? At this moment, the two of them finally understood. In that case you weren't originally from the mine. Now, not only have you killed the leader, you've even revealed your true identity in front of us. You've got guts. Ning Xen was so shocked that he didn't catch Di Baichen at first. We have already discussed this matter with the vice pavilion master, Bailey Hongzhuang said. The vice pavilion master agreed? If you don't agree, why would we be so arrogant? Ning Xen, the sun must have risen from the west. What the vice pavilion master did today was completely out of character. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang also removed her disguise and showed her true face. This made her feel relieved. She had been using Jichuan's identity for a long time, and she was worried that she would have to maintain this identity after becoming a consul. It would be troublesome in the future. Now that everything had been seen through by the deputy pavilion master, there was no need for them to pretend. It would undoubtedly be more convenient to deal with these matters in the future. Seeing that Di Baichen had turned into a handsome man, the two of them didn't pay too much attention to it. Originally, Jichuan's appearance was ordinary. There was nothing outstanding about him. The only thing special about him was his pair of bright eyes. Now that he had changed his face, they felt that this was Jichuan's true appearance. Otherwise, the pair of eyes on Jichuan's face would not match. However, when they realized that the other man had turned into a woman, the two of them fell into silence. It wasn't until Ning Xen finished all the procedures that he said, I think the vice pavilion master might have been blinded by lust this time, so he made an unprecedented exception. Keep your voice down. If the deputy singer hears you, I won't save you, Zhonglei reminded her. These words were obviously very effective on Ning Xian. He immediately straightened his face. I'll leave the rest to you. Take the two of them over there and leave some information. In the future, when his people come up here, they can avoid being caught as minors. Zhonglei nodded slightly. I understand. The two of them followed Zhonglei all the way until everything was settled. Only then did they slowly walk out. You don't have to worry. After leaving your information, as long as your clansmen fly up and say your name and confirm it, they will let you go. Sometimes because the clansmen don't know that you've become a consul, I'm afraid that you'll have to make a few trips yourself. We understand. Thank you. You're welcome. Zhonglei smiled. We're now in the same line of work. We'll have to deal with each other in the future. Thank you so much for this time. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid we wouldn't be here. Di Baichen cupped his hands. If you need anything in the future, don't hesitate to ask. There will always be a chance. Zhonglei smiled. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.